All right, and we're live. Hey guys, welcome back to Horse 2 Cinema. And today I am very excited to be doing a yearly tradition on the channel, which is go through the top 10 as well as honorable mentions, top 10 movies that we saw in 2024. And for the first time, I'm doing it not solo. No, I did it live last year. I did it pre-recorded before that, but it's the first time I'm doing it with a friend, and happy to have one of my good friend Leon talks
Hi.
film, not Deadpool.
Oh no, Deadpool. I love Deadpool, guys. It'll be in my top 10, I promise. I'm not telling you which top 10, but yeah, I love Deadpool. Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, no, we've been talking about doing a live stream again for so long, but I've just had so many issues recently. My mic broke, we moved house and everything, so it's been trying to find the right time for it, but we've both seen a lot of great films this year, and I think we need a excuse to talk about really, because it's
Yeah, no,
good
for
year
sure.
for us.
I don't know. Like I've had a busy year. I've definitely, the New Year's resolution of mine is to do way more in the channel than I've done this year,
Yeah,
obviously. But just kind of go back to what I was doing before. But no, I think this is a great way to start. I mean, like this is a good way to like catch up with all of the shit that I wish I had reviewed on the channel, just generally.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so the way we're going to do this is. So this happens every year where I mean last year I even had another segment where it was like because I got to go to the London Film Festival and see a few films that actually I think two of which didn't get released until this year, so I'll be talking about those films a little briefly this year, but the other like important segment is that there's always films that like you really are like are high on your watch list, or just things that have kind of intrigued you throughout that you've put on your watch list sometime and you just don't get around to seeing them. I think I've seen like 67 new release films this year. That's a little bit low for me, but like there's definitely a lot of stuff that I haven't seen that I feel like could be on my list. I'm
yeah.
sure that's the same for you.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I mean, I think my list, if we're talking purely film and not like the TV and the miniseries, because I've kind of sectioned those off into their own list, I think I'm at 97, which sounds like a lot, but you've also got to remember a lot of like films in the UK, we get later than the States, so like I've got stuff like, I
right.
don't know, like The Iron Claw came out this year and Poor Things, so
Your
you'll
favorite, The
probably see
Holdovers, a good
some.
time to bring it up.
Yeah, you'll see some of those like on my list, and some people will be like, "Wait, what? Why are they on
Yeah,
it?" But UK release dates and stuff. But I was close to 100. Maybe I'll check out a few more before the year ends to make it like a sole 100. But I have
yeah,
a bunch of films I still wish I ended up seeing this year too. So I
yeah.
completely get that.
I'll let you do that first because I have a few that I wrote down as well.
Oh,
But yeah, go
absolutely.
ahead.
Okay, so I'll
Well, actually, before
speed
we do
through.
that, do you want to just get into a few comments?
Oh, absolutely. I didn't know we had comments yet. Hi,
Cool, cool. Yeah, just a
everybody.
few.
Who's here? Who's here?
We've got Brady
Oh,
asking who is Horsetooth Cinema.
I don't know. Who is
He's around here. I've heard he's a bit of a dick though. Like
I think he
uh,
loves Deadpool.
I think he loves Deadpool. I think he loves Hal Ashby's being there. Uh, uh,
New Year's
uh,
resolution, you rewatch it.
yeah, that probably should be. Brady also says, "Wait, this isn't the new episode of Family Guy Sundays at 8 p.m. Central only on Fox."
No. Oh, we
I
we
think it.
tricked him.
We did
Oh,
trick him. We did trick him.
I'm sorry,
But now
Brady.
he's here and he can't go away. He's trapped now.
He's trapped.
Um, we got Josh saying, "Hey guys, hey, how's it going, Josh? Good to see
Hi,
you."
Josh.
He says Dune better be on the list.
No, I mean,
It will be mentioned at some point either on the list or honorable mentions. I will not spoil that.
mm, yeah. Sorry, Josh.
Oh, Josh has us beat. He's seen 110 new releases
Jesus.
this year.
Fuck.
That's
Okay, that's
that's some
impressive.
dedication. That is That's really impressive.
Yeah.
I'll say that. That's
Well,
that's really awesome, Josh.
you're crowned the
Um,
victor, Josh.
yeah, Zone of Interest is one.
Yeah, zone of
Is
interest is one.
Poor Things I think is one.
Four Things is
Um,
one.
Yeah.
Um,
There's quite
I'm
there's quite a few actually. Yeah.
I'm
Um,
excited because my 2025 list, like in January, it's just going to be so many 2024 films there. It's going to be like, well, I mean, technically, I've seen Saturday Night through legal means, which doesn't come out until the end of January here. Awful film,
okay.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see like The Brutalist. That's not out until like I think the 17th or something, and
I
God,
haven't
what
even
else?
seen it here. Like I know people in who are in like New York and stuff who have seen it at like festivals and
Yeah.
kind of limited releases, but I haven't heard of it playing here. So I think I'm probably just gonna count it as 2025, but we'll see.
That's fair, yeah. If it gets a
Yeah.
limited release, but like a full theatrical release, because I think like Priscilla's one of those where it got released on like I think like New Year's Eve in a limited release from Movie over here, but got a full theatrical push on I think January 1st. So if I get around to seeing Priscilla, that'll be a 2024 film for me. So yeah, I you
That's a
could
good
count it
movie.
that way.
I think
Yeah.
I don't know if I had it on my honorable mention slash. Oh yeah, because I didn't see it until this year. That's right.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
really want to see it. I've heard
it's
great
it's
things.
it's it's quite good. I hope you enjoy it. But cool. I'll let you go ahead and we can rattle off some of the ones that we were really excited about. You already
Awesome.
kind of
Okay.
mentioned one or two, but if you want to, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so some of these, I will say, after doing a bit of research, they are getting 2025 UK releases, or they just don't have releases here in general. So some of these may end up on a best of 2025 list, but I'll just rattle them off. So I really want to see Mike Nichols' The Bike Riders. I really love his film Take Shelter, so I'd like to see that. I heard really good things. Cuckoo with Hunter Schafer. That's one that's been on my
Mhm.
radar. I just never got around to watching it. Gladiator
Yeah,
2,
same
which
here.
I've heard okay things about Gladiator 2, but I do like late period, late era Ridley Scott, so I imagine it will be a fun time. The horror film Oddity, which I know a lot of people have been raving about, the Shudder film. Haven't got
Yeah,
around to that
yeah.
yet, but I really want to see that. The new Paul Schrader film Oh Canada, which doesn't even have a UK release. I
I
don't
feel like
know.
I'm just counting that for next year because that's also something that I'm very excited about. But like,
Yeah, I'm really.
what is the release? Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited. I mean, I think over the past like year or so, I've just become kind of like a Paul Schrader head. Like I love him. I think he only has a few misses for me, and I'm always interested in whatever he makes. This one's getting a release in February over here, but The People's Joker, which I've heard really great things about.
Wow,
It looks
that
so
technically
much
came
fun.
out like a while back, right? Like, I want to say it was like
Yeah,
last year.
I think it might have been last year at film festivals, and then it got like a bit of a wide like digital and theatrical push this year. But it's getting a
Yeah.
UK one in about February or something. So I'm going to count it as a 2025 one. I'm hopefully going to see it on the big screen because it looks wild in the best ways possible. The next two I'm actually seeing on New Year's Day because they're both 2025 releases, but for most people they'll be 2024, and they are We Live in Time and Nosferatu, which I know you have interesting thoughts about Nosferatu, and I don't know where I'm going to land on it. That I'm excited. I don't know if I'm going to like it, hate it, or be in the middle on it. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'm excited for Nosferatu regardless, and We Live in Time. Paddington in Peru. I don't know why I didn't go see that at the cinema. The Paddington films are great fun. M Night, I forget her name, but M Night's daughter made a film called The Watchers, which
Oh
I've
yeah,
heard middling things about, but I'd still like to see because
yeah,
the Shyamalans just they rock. Maybe they'll appear on a list of mine. Who
yeah.
knows?
Who knows?
Um, Shadow
I
Strays.
watched. I did see the Watchers. I didn't really like it, but it does have a lot of merit. The reason I didn't like it was actually more like just the third act. Like I think
Okay,
it could have been like a fine like genre film for a director without what it does at the end. But I won't say too much of that.
interesting. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'll check it out at some point. I mean, I'm not expecting to like be head over heels for it, but I'm just interested, and maybe it's just like an interesting starting point, and then she'll like improve as time goes on or something. I want to see the Shadow Strays, which I know you watched and really enjoyed. I don't know if that's going to make
We'll be
your list
talking
or
about that a bit later. Yeah.
oh, hell yeah. Okay, I'll leave that discussion for now then. Sing Sing, the A24 film with Coleman
Yeah.
Domingo. I've heard that's amazing, and I know it's making so many people's top 10 lists, and I know it's a bit of a Academy like awards favorite, so I'm gonna check that out maybe tonight even because I've just heard great things about it. And then the last three are the Netflix film Rebel Ridge by Jeremy Saulnier, who did Green Room and Blue Ruin and a couple of other films. Yeah, that Netflix film he did this year, I've heard it's just absolutely amazing. Again, cracking so many people's top 10 lists, so I'd love to check that out. The film, I think it's Dee Dee, which I believe is a directorial debut. I forget the director's name, but I've heard that's great too. And finally, the film Red Rooms, which I don't know too much about, but I know a lot of horror heads are big on Red Rooms. So yeah, they're my wanted to watch, and that's just scratching the iceberg. There's probably about another 40 films that I could find, but I don't want to go on forever. But what about you? What about you?
No, those were some good shouts. I have some overlap, I think, so I'll be quick. But yeah, Brutalist was one for me that I don't even know. Again, I might just count that for 2025 since there's no official release date for it. But I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah. One that I really was bummed that I didn't get to check out. I actually did watch the first 3 minutes of it last night, but then I ended up doing some other things and just didn't get around to it today since I had to run some errands. Was The Order. Ooh, by the Australian filmmaker Justin, I forget what his last name is. Kurzel, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Kurzel.
Who did this Assassin's Creed movie and a few other things. I think he did that movie Nitram last year, the year before.
Yes,
or Nitram. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Snowtown as well, which is insanely disturbing. And The True History of the Kelly Gang, which is a pretty good film.
That's right. That was the other one I was thinking of. But yeah, that looked cool. It was it looks almost like what Civil War should have been. But
Okay.
But anyway, another one was this. I don't know if you know this. Takeshi Kitano made a movie this year. It's called Kubi.
I did not know that, but interesting.
Yeah, I think it's his first crack at doing a full-on samurai movie.
So late into his career. What the? Okay, I'm adding this.
I think it's just I heard somebody say that basically every Japanese director has to do that at some point. So it's that's pretty cool. Dee Dee was another one for me that it sounded like an amazing coming of age movie, but I just missed it. Rebel Ridge. Big fan of Green Room, so definitely need to check that out at some point. A Different Man, which I think you checked out and maybe you'll discuss at some point briefly. But
Different Man's pretty good. Yeah. I don't have it on my list, but I'll just say super quick because I don't have it written down. A Different Man, really, really solid film. It's something that I'd like to revisit again in the future, and it's definitely the better of the two Sebastian Stan films that came out this year. I'll say that much. He's great in it, and so is Adam Pearson. Some great practical effects, wizardry for Sebastian Stan, and it's really beautiful and a really sad film, but it's something I'd love to revisit in the future. It didn't crack my best of the year list, but it's up there. It's one of the year's better films.
Cool. Kneecap is one that I didn't get around to, but I'm actually a huge longtime fan of the band, and so I really need to get around to that at some point. The Kiyoshi Kurosawa film Cloud. I did see his short kind of a featurette Chime, which I'll touch on briefly, but Cloud. I didn't really hear much about it other than it was really good, and I kind of heard comparisons to Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, which is a movie I basically never hear comparisons to because it's so unique. And so that made me really want to check it out. I think it is online somewhere, but it's not like a wide release or anything yet.
No.
And then just the last two, Evil Does Not Exist by Ryosuke Hamaguchi, who did Drive My Car. And then Red Rooms, which you mentioned as well. It was actually came out 2 years ago, and then is just now kind of being seen by most people.
But one of those people's Joker situations where it's just kind of it's been out for a while, and I think both of us will have one film on our list that technically premiered a year or two ago through festivals. It was really small,
I think I know the one.
But blew up this year. Well, I say blew up for its size, it blew up.
I don't think anyone really the broader public, people who weren't at a film festival. I don't think anybody really saw it until this year. So
no,
definitely not a 2022 film or whatever it's listed as.
No.
Alrighty, cool.
States are just so confusing to me. I abolish them.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
We'll do a few more comments and then we'll get into the
yeah,
honorable mentions.
absolutely.
Um, Gary the Blu-ray Addict. Hey, how's it going, man? Good to see you.
Hi, Gary.
He said, yeah, he says, hi, gents. Do you think it's been a good year for films?
Oh, it's
So
been amazing.
I have a pretty strong opinion. Like, so I think actually I've heard a lot of people say that it's been kind of an off year. I think some of where that comes from is more that just like the big tentpole movies are not what they were last year.
Yeah.
Where you had, like Barbie and Oppenheimer, and even a lot of the Academy movies that, even like Poor Things made a lot of money. The Holdovers, things like that. Like I think a lot of the movies at and of course last year didn't you have like Mission Impossible and a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
Just it feels like this year we haven't gotten quite that same like sort of box office excitement. But I mean, my top 10 this year can compete with any other year. It's just that most of the films are smaller films.
Yeah, no, it's the same for me. I think this year has been kind of just like the big boom of like independent cinema, more so than any other year, really. Like, it doesn't make my list, and I don't think you saw it, but like, look at Terrifier 3. That film released unrated, and I think it's the highest grossing unrated film of all time, and made like 70, 80 million, which is
That's crazy.
absolutely nuts to think about for a film that,
Yeah.
again, released unrated in cinemas. It's like, you think of just successes of like, I don't know, like something like Longlegs, which only cost a few million, or just even like the word of mouth of something like Strange Darling. I'm pointing to a lot of horror right now, but I think it's kind of the year of horror, and just the year of these
Oh,
like
yeah.
smaller films. Just even if they don't make like crazy bank at the box office, like if something like the film that we're going to discuss made like $1 million at the box office, compared to the budget of that film, that is like raking in the profits and everything because of how small some of these films are on our list. And no, I think it's been a really, really good year. And on my list, I only have a handful of what I'd consider like bigger budget films, and even then, like the one big blockbuster I have on my list bombed anyway because no one went
I
to see
know, me
it.
too.
Yeah,
I
it
think I
bums
think
me
I think
out.
it's probably the same one, but it's like the most expensive movie on our list. It really bombed.
Yeah, bombed
But
hard. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't even know if it's in my top 10. I kind of want to up it to my top 10. Oh, it's so good. Anyway, but yeah, no, I think it's been a great year for film, and I think even again, we both mentioned between us probably about 20 or 30 films that we want to see that are all apparently amazing too, or
exactly.
like
Yeah,
at least at the very least interesting. And I
for
think
sure.
both of us have a good handful of honorable mentions. So I mean, last year was great for film. I think this year is just as good, and in some ways, I think this year was even better. Which a
Yeah,
lot
in
of
some
people
ways, I
won't
think. Yeah.
say. Like most people say,
Last year wasn't
"Oh,
really as strong for like smaller movies, I thought.
yes."
Um,
It's kind of like the
but
divide of like, yeah, the mainstream stuff was a bit better last year, but now the small
yeah,
stuff's better this year. Yeah.
yeah.
No, absolutely.
Josh says, enjoyed Saturday night. Cool. I need to see it. I saw The Brutalist, and damn, it's perfect.
How did you see The
Cool.
Brutalist, Josh? I need to know. Because I want to see
I,
I want to see The Brutalist. It's not playing anywhere near
I'm
me.
like,
I
I know.
I didn't see Saturday Night. Well, no, I did see Saturday Night. I didn't like Saturday Night. Is what I was trying to say.
It's
I
disappeared from your brain now.
Yeah, it disappeared from my brain. Chevy Chase made a comment yesterday saying that Jason Reitman should be embarrassed for making Saturday Night. Everyone on the internet's like, Chevy, you're being mean. He's right. I'm sorry. Chevy Chase is right. He should be embarrassed for making Saturday Night. I'm kidding. It's fine.
What a
It's not
good
even the
person
worst.
Chevy Chase is for that statement.
Yeah. But no, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Josh. Sorry.
Josh says Bike Riders is pretty good. Wasn't a fan of Cuckoo. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
need to check
Interesting.
out. Yeah,
I'm excited to check them out.
one of those defenders of the card counter and Mastercard. Yeah, he's on kind of a run, honestly.
Yeah. I
He's
am.
the stuff he's been making lately has been really cool.
Oh, it's been so. I mean, I even went back to revisit Dog Eat Dog, and I came out with like a newfound appreciation for it after kind of
Yeah,
hating that on my first viewing. So
you know
I
what's
don't
funny
know.
about
I
that?
think like
When I went to see Nosferatu the other day, the Alamo Draft House, which I saw it at, they had this like big like pre-show like 5 to 10 minute long thing. It was like Willem Dafoe appreciation, and they showed many clips from Dog Eat Dog, including the one of him like looking in the mirror after he just did meth.
that's incredible. Okay,
It's pretty
shout outs to
cool.
Alamo for that. That's amazing.
Oh yeah. Um, Yeah, Josh saying very positive things about both Sing Sing and Dee Dee as well.
Oh,
I hope that's how
awesome.
you pronounce it. I thought I've heard it's
Yes.
Chinese and it has those like accents. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I hope I'm not
I don't know if I'm
pronouncing it wrong
pronouncing it
too.
right, but um,
But yeah, no, I'm really excited to check all of those out.
yeah. And we got Jason in the house. Thanks for tuning in, Jason. Hope you're
Hi,
doing well.
Jason.
He says, "Hey Jackson, I wonder if we'll agree on any of these movies." Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been able to keep up with your takes as much because I think you got logged out of your letterboxd or something. So
Yeah,
I need to see like if I'm curious. Let me know if there's any that like line up because we normally have pretty different tastes.
yeah.
Um, Sin, how's it going? Yeah, good to see you too. Uh, she says to Josh, I also used beautiful to describe Sing Sing. Love that movie. Okay.
Awesome.
Well,
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to check it out.
that was not a pun intended. I didn't mean to do that. I'm waiting for Sing Sing, The Brutalist, and A Real Pain to come out in the theater. I think
Yeah.
A Real Pain isn't that out? Didn't
Yeah,
I feel like
that
that?
doesn't come out until January here, so that will be a
Oh,
2025
okay.
film for me as well.
Maybe
Yeah,
maybe
I
it
should
was a
check
limited
that.
release because I did see that it was near me recently, but might not be near everybody.
Okay.
Cool. We'll pick up on the comments in a bit. We'll go ahead and jump into the honorable mentions. Leon, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, these are in no particular order, and I think we might have some overlap. Some of these might even be on your top 10 list of the year. But I'd like to shout all of these out because at point they're all something that I think everybody should seek out in one way or another. So first, I do want to start with the middle. I don't know what to really call it, but Chime by Kiyoshi Kurosawa that you mentioned
Oh yeah.
briefly before. I think Chime was absolutely fantastic, and if you're a fan of his film Cure, or even like the kind of horror of something like Pulse, for example, you are going to love Chime. It's about 45 minutes long, and it follows like a culinary chef, like he's like a teacher of sorts, isn't he? He's like a and he hears a student of his kind of goes nuts mid-class because he hears this like constant ringing chime, and then kills himself in front. Tries to kill somebody, kills himself, and then this teacher's basically dealing with the ramifications of that event. I won't go any further than that. That's like the opening 5 or so minutes
It's a good
of the
setup.
short.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely like just as eerie and like terrifying, and not in a very loud, very bloody way, although there are moments of like very striking violence that really caught me off guard. But I do think that it feels, I think you were saying this when we were on call at some point, but it almost feels like a spiritual successor to Cure in quite a
Oh
few
yeah.
ways, where
It's
like
almost like
operating in
the only
simplicity.
criticism I could really see of it is just that it's like way too derivative of his other stuff. But like,
Yeah,
I kind of don't care. It's
no.
doing it in a much more like contained format, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And also, it's the first time, like, I mean, Cure came out in the 90s, so it's not like it's, oh, he just made a film and then he's doing the same thing again. I mean, this man has, like, a catalog of films. Like, I think he's released 3 this year, like, just this year
I
alone.
think you're right.
Because
I
he's
think you're
released
right. Yeah.
Cloud, that, and another one, which I'm pretty sure is entirely in French. Like, he's on a roll right now, so I don't mind if he's, like,
He's funding them all through
hits.
NFT money.
Oh,
Apparently.
don't remind me. Don't remind me. It's
Well,
okay.
hey, if he gets to make his movies, like it's
True. If he's getting, yeah. But no, I thought Chime was like absolutely just terrifying and captivating, and some people might be a bit let down by the fact it's only 45 minutes. I mean, I could have seen a longer version, but I also I think it's really like just great the way it is. Really, I have no real complaints about it. It should really, I feel like it should have cracked my top 10 because it's so good. But I think there are some films that are even better this year. Would you like to talk about Chime a bit? Just because I know. Wait, is Chime on
I think
your
we should
list?
probably go through them a little faster for the honorable mentions, just because we've got a lot to.
Yeah. Aggro Drift, Harmony Korine. Absolutely a wild film. I will be brief on this one because I know you're going to have some stuff to say about it. You actually saw this in the theater, which few people can say about Aggro Drift. But what a just insane one of a kind experience. Ultimate video game movie of all time. People are talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. Fuck that. Aggro Drift exists. NPC dialogue, insane visuals, out of this world music. The funniest Travis Scott performance, or the funniest performance of the year with Travis Scott.
I was like, what other stuff has
mantra.
he been in? Like, yeah.
I think no, nothing. I don't know. Yeah, he's just funny in it. Is basically what I'm saying. his wake up, do it, go to sleep, do it, like monologue mantra is so fucking funny. But yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more because I have a feeling it's going to be on one of your lists. I'd like to shout out the documentary Chasing Amy, which is a documentary about Sav Rogers, who found out that they were gay through Chasing Amy, the Kevin Smith film, which is very, I mean,
Dated, right? That's what I've heard.
It's very divisive. Divisive.
Yeah, sure.
So some people love it, some people hate it. Fun fact: it's actually
Yeah.
in the Criterion collection on DVD, which is very funny. Kevin Smith.
I did not know that.
Criterion collection. But yeah, it's a really, really beautiful documentary that kind of authentically looks back at a film that has a polarized reception for a reason. Kevin Smith's featured in it, and it's also a really beautiful kind of coming of age story and somebody learning about who they really are, and really beautiful stuff. It made me very emotional. Again, it's so close to cracking my top 10, but just quite didn't. But I seek it out. Even if you haven't seen Chasing Amy, I think it's something that's really special. Strange Darling, which I actually do own the 4K for the ones
nice.
that I own physical copies of, I'm going to highlight them. Very controversial movie from this year. Some people love it. Some people fucking hate this film. I'm in a weird situation where I can understand people who dislike Strange Darling because there is an element to the third act which is very controversial amongst people, and the detractors of the film, I totally get their takes on it. I still think it's an incredibly captivating piece of genre filmmaking. I think it has one of the best performances of the year from Willa Fitzgerald, who in any sane world would be nominated for like Best Actress at the Oscars. I'm being serious. One of the best performances of the year. I hope she gets some recognition for it. She's outstanding. It's shot by Giovanni Ribisi, the guy from like Ted and Avatar and all of that, like How I Met Your Mother, I think. I've never watched that show, but he's apparently in that too. And luscious 35mm cinematography. If you're into genre filmmaking, twisty-turny cinema, you'll have a great time. Also, Kyle Gorma's in it, and I love that man. So yeah, Strange Darling's great. This one might be, you might talk about it, so I'm just going to be brief. And it was the blockbuster I think that we were both talking about. But George Miller's Furiosa, one of the most just...
We saw it together.
I don't know. One of the best prequels ever made, I think, because like prequels are usually not very good for the most part.
Yeah.
Like track records on prequels are really iffy, but yeah, this one is just absolutely great. Me and Jackson actually saw this together in IMAX, and it was a great time.
It was really cool.
I had such a fucking fun time with it, and yeah, no, I only watched Fury Road for the first time this year. I think it was like a week, maybe even less than a week before we caught Furiosa. So that was super fresh in my mind. And watching them back to back, I understand the issues some people have with Furiosa looking a bit more digital and whatnot, but I just had such a great time with both of them for very differing reasons. Amazing blockbuster. I mean this in the nicest way. Fuck everybody who didn't go and see it because that film deserved to make more money. I'm so sad it bombed. But that's great. And then I just have a few more. I have two more. So this was originally my top 10, and technically for most people it would be a last year film, but I'm going to shout out anyway because it came out January. Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things. Absolutely delightful film. Really, really fun. I think this was the first film I saw at the cinema this year. It was this followed by The Beekeeper, which was an amazing double feature, by the way. That was an amazing double feature. But yeah, Poor Things, it was my favorite Yorgos Lanthimos film until something else came out this year, but we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, no, great, very just like incredible production design, amazing performances around. Like Emma Stone is, it still might be Emma Stone's best performance, honestly. She's so great in this. Willem Dafoe's great in it. I like Christopher Abbott in it quite a bit, and I forget the other guy who's Mark Ruffalo. Mark Ruffalo. I'm a Mark Ruffalo detractor, and I think he's great in this. I don't like Mark Ruffalo traditionally. He's great in Zodiac. I'm not going to discredit Zodiac, but he's probably doing his best work ever here. He's so funny. Love it. And then finally, this would basically be my number 11, and for a long time it was top 10, but it just barely graces through now because I've seen so many great films recently, and that is Osgood Perkins' Longlegs.
Oh wow, that's a really cool steelbook.
Yeah, I love. I love the steelbook. It's so nice. And inside, I don't know if this is even gonna pick this up on camera. I need to quickly show this. I like this because these were some promotional images, but if you look inside, you see the two sides of like the interrogation sequence from each perspective, which I think is really, really cool. You see like from the back of why am I forgetting the lead? Lee Harker. You see it from each perspective and Longlegs. Great film. I've not really been an Osgood Perkins fan ever. I've seen all of his films now, and I think The Blackcoat's Daughter is pretty bad, or pretty mid, I should say. Gretel and Hansel is and then I think I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives Inside of a House, or whatever the fuck that film is like so boring. It's just like the dullest motion picture I've ever seen in my entire life. He just the marketing for Longlegs had me intrigued. The Nicolas Cage hook had me intrigued. Neon have been killing it recently, or for the past couple of years now, and I went in fucking blown away. Amazing, really terrifying film, really funny at points too, which not enough people really highlight about Longlegs. It's got some great humor to it, looks amazing. Some terrifying things. I mean, there's like at least 3 Bill Clinton jump scares in the film that just are fucking terrifying.
And a Richard Nixon one.
But excellent performances all around, and has me basically sold for anything he's doing next. And I know he's already got a King adaptation, Stephen King's The Monkey, that comes out like in February or something. So
have you seen the trailer for that?
I have. It looks fun. It looks fun.
Really fun. Yeah.
It's been such a good year, and in any other year, like some of these are like 5-star films for me. So that just kind of highlights how good of a year this has been when 5-star joints aren't even in my top 10. But over to you. Awesome. Honorable mentions.
I'll go through these quickly. I'll just kind of do like a couple of like movies that were like very high 3-star films that I still really would love to talk about here. But so one was The Substance, which I was a 4 for me initially. Went down a little bit on a rewatch, but I still have to highlight like just what a crazy film experience it was. I mean, I think I've mentioned before, but I'm pretty good at body horror, but I actually had to like get up and walk around during a certain sequence in the film.
I remember you telling me about that.
It's incredibly affecting. Really, really well done. Like directorial effort. And then I did the most recent film I've seen, which I feel like I could maybe like increase the score on a rewatch, is Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. Was very excited. I was really hoping I was going to be able to include it. I had some kind of issues with it as an adaptation of Nosferatu, but it's still a really, really well-made film. I think I really wouldn't want anybody other than Robert Eggers approaching this material after it's already been reimagined before by Herzog, and of course, like the original 1920s film is a masterpiece. So. Those two were some like high 3s, and then the other ones, which were like 4-star movies for me, Samsara, which is like this slow cinema kind of like a Pitchapong adjacent like art movie about Buddhism that I saw at the London Film Festival in 2023. Just got a release this year on Mubi, I think.
Awesome.
Chime, which we talked about, from Kiyoshi Kurosawa. In a Violent Nature, which is one of my probably my favorite slasher that came out this year. Just really, really cool. Sort of like, it's like they made a Jason movie, but an art house version of it, and they actually pulled that off and made it good. I was really surprised by that. Longlegs, which you mentioned, just really great performance by Nicolas Cage. Really great atmosphere. Kinds of Kindness, which I expect we'll be talking about on your list, which I found hilarious and disturbing and really, really weird, and just a really, really awesome time from Yorgos Lanthimos. This martial arts movie called Twilight of the Warriors Walled In, which is
that's on my list. I need to see that.
From the director
on watch list,
right. It's from the director of Limbo, Soi Chung, who's like I want to say he's from Hong Kong. So it's very different. Like Limbo is like this really, really bleak, like miserable, like almost like Seven or Memories of Murder, like crime drama. This is a much more like, it's not fully lighthearted, but it's definitely like, it's just kind of like the tone of your standard martial arts movie. And it has this really, really wholesome ending. I won't spoil too much about it, but for the bleak setting of the film, I like the ending a lot. Rap World, which is Connor O'Malley's like featurette, like 50-minute long movie about he and his friends like failing to make a rap album, and it just reminded me so much of like so many different experiences I had like hanging out with friends in high school. And I was never like the music like creative type, but definitely we would do like kind of filmmaking stuff that was very similar to what they're doing. It similarly, we also like mostly didn't do that. A lot of the big joke of the film is that they actually not much of the film was actually related to them doing the album. It's all about just them goofing off doing other stuff. But yeah, I had laughed so hard watching that one. Another film I laughed at a lot, I think more laughed with as well, is Aggro Drift, as you mentioned. I got to see it with Harmony Korine, and I'm not gonna say that it's like it's a super. I mean, I do think it's satirical in some ways. I'm not going to say it's a super deep film, but it's so, I don't know. I think it is quite an experience to just take in like the way he decides to shoot this, everything with these like infrared cameras, and the music's fantastic. So if for people who like Harmony Korine, you're probably going to love it. Juror number 2, that easily the best thing Clint Eastwood has made in a very long time. Amazing performance from Nicholas Hoult. Really like the script, really like the ending.
The ending's so good.
And then these last two, it like, kind of killed me to not put on the list, but we are limited to 10. Yeah. So one of them is Dune Part 2, which I was like, how am I not going to put this on the list? Because it was like my number one for the first couple of months of the year. I really dug it as as a continuation of the first one. Yeah, I mean, I everything about it's great. I just had some other stuff that I wanted to highlight a bit more. And then the last one, which you kind of mentioned that I was going to bring up, was The Shadow Strays.
Yes.
Which is this like, it's from the guy who made the Indonesian director who made The Night Comes for Us. So he's like this super, super like hyper violent, almost like body horror, like action director. And that like it's it's some like just the kills in it are just so like comically absurd, but in a way that really does make you writhe in your seat. Like other than The Substance, probably like the body horror film of the year, even for not being like a horror movie. And the action is incredible. It was really, really well stylized. They are probably going to be doing some sequels, so I'm excited for that.
That rocks.
So, but yeah, that's all my honorable mentions. If you want to, I think we can go ahead and get into our top 10s.
Before we do that, do you want to check? Do you want to check if there's any comments? I'm going to get my.
Oh yes, yeah, good idea. Yeah, it's been a minute. Let's see. What was the last one I did? I think it was Sin's comment. So I'm going to say, yeah. Jason says waiting for this Sing Sing the Brutalist, A Real Pain to come out in theater.
Oh wait, no,
yeah.
We did
I did get that one.
Yeah, because you were talking about A Real Pain, like
right
close to you or something.
Yeah, I got that one. I don't think I got this one though, because he said I saw 50 movies and I think about 15 of them I liked. Wow, okay, that's pretty brutal. No, I liked a lot more. I think I liked over half of the ones I saw. I'd have to check, but at least moderately liked,
over half. I'd say this year in particular has been a year when, I mean, this was the first real year where I fully dived into the whole like single like star mentality, where I wasn't doing half stars, like no half stars, and I think that kind of made me like look at how I rate and rank films a little differently. So I've been a lot kinder than I traditionally would, because a lot of films that would have maybe received, say, like a 5 out of 10, I'll give like a low 6 or something now in comparison. But sure. I've enjoyed the majority of what I've seen this year. There's probably about 20 or 30 films I've seen this year, which I think range from being to fucking terrible.
Yeah, we're going to be doing another stream at some point about the worst movies of the year. So
yes,
stay tuned for that.
But yeah, no, I think I've enjoyed the majority of what I've seen this year too. Like I said, such a strong year for film.
Sin says, I love the Bike Riders. Also wasn't great. You see about Cuckoo. Yeah, the Bike Riders. That's it's with Austin Butler, right?
Yeah, Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer, and Mike. I think it's Mike Nichols who directed it. Who did the Take Shelter, Mud?
I think isn't it Jeff Nichols?
It might be Jeff Nichols. Who Mike Nichols? Who am I thinking
Could be
of?
wrong.
No, I think it might be Jeff. You're right. Anyway, yeah, Jeff Nichols, whoever it is, that guy. He's a really good
Yeah.
director. Terrible with names, but yeah, no.
Yeah.
Take Shelter's like a masterpiece, I think, and Mud I've heard is really good, and I want to see some of his other stuff, but I heard Bike Riders was really solid, so I'd like to get around to checking
Nice.
that out too.
Yeah. Josh says, "I'll let you know after the stream about the Brutalist." Oh yeah, it was how we watched it. That's right. That's
Okay.
Right.
Cool. Thank you.
Film of the year is Nora. Seen it too many times to count. We're gonna refrain from talking about that for a minute.
But now, yeah.
I loved Aggro Drift. Yeah, you have to see it in the right environment, and like it's pretty much only made for Harmony Korine heads, but
yeah.
like most people I think would watch it and be like, that's the worst movie I've ever seen, but that's kind of why I like it. Let's see. Strange Darling was very high on my list. Not in the top 20, but honorable mention. Cool. Kinds of Kindness is my favorite Lanthimos, but still really solid. I found it a little too hard to get adjusted to it, but I settled in later on. Yeah, I mean, it is an anthology, so it's like, you might be connected to some parts of it more than others.
Yeah.
I kind of thought I would feel like that, but I actually, weirdly, I kind of really connected to all of the stories.
Yeah.
In different ways, I guess. But Jason says Juror number 2 made my top 10.
Oh,
it was pretty close. I want to say, if I'm being technical about it, it's probably like my number 12 or 13. I loved it.
Oh no, sorry. Continue.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think it's in like my top 20 at the very least. But like again, such a strong year for film. But I loved Juror number 2. I'm not really someone who even loves a lot of Clint Eastwood directorial efforts, especially the more recent ones. But I had a great time with Juror number 2. Really thrilling and might have made me made me appreciate Nicholas Hoult as an actor even more, which is good because I don't like him in the lot really. So
he's had an incredible year though. I mean, like with this, I mean, I think he's probably the best performance in Nosferatu, to be honest.
Okay.
Like he's been really strong, I think.
Yeah.
Haven't seen Juror number 2 yet. Yeah, well, worth checking out for sure.
Good movie.
Winslow, hey, how's it going, man?
Hi,
Good to see you. Hope you're doing okay in that lighthouse, buddy. He's still keeping it. Can't stay for too long. Just wanted to say The Holdovers is brilliant. Thank you. I love The Holdovers. Leon's wrong. We're moving on.
Fucking awful movie. I'm kidding. I'm glad you like it too. I hate it with every fiber in my body, but I'm glad you enjoy it. Yeah. Anyway, nice to see you too.
Oh yeah, it is. It looks like it is Jeff Nichols. Mike Nichols is the guy who did The Graduate.
That's it was not Mike Nichols who directed the Bike Riders. I was off a little bit, but they both have 4 letters in their names and Nichols is a surname, so yeah.
I don't rank favorites of the year anymore, but Juror number 2 is one of my favorites. It is really hard to rank favorites. It kind of kills me to like put certain films above others, and we'll definitely get into it. But yeah. But I think it's a fun way to engage in film community. So I think it's worth doing if you have like a channel or something. But it's I get that for sure.
No,
100%. We'll move on from our holdovers discussion, but
we'll save that for the worst movies of the year. And also,
hey, it would be on my list last year because I that's when it came out for me. But
before we get into the top 10, can I shout out one more honorable mention because I can't believe I forgot this, and I'll be brief, kind of, but I need to shout it out because no one else is going to. We even discussed this yesterday, me, you, and Brady. I just need to shout out one of the maybe the underrated film of the year, a misunderstood gem, which will be looked back on fondly, but probably not actually. But I think Joker Folie à Deux is kind of brilliant, and this is coming from somebody who hates Todd Phillips' Joker. I think that first film is horrendous. One of the worst.
I don't like it either.
However, Joker Folie à Deux is great, and I wish more people would give it another shot, because I think there's stuff going on in that film which is really funny. I think it's a very funny shitpost film, but it's also the best film Todd Phillips has ever made by like quite a wide margin. It's got some really good performances in it. It looks amazing. Sure, the musical numbers might not be too great, but I will be a Joker for Leodu Truther forever, and I know nobody else is really in line with it, in agreement with me outside of Brady. But everybody, go and rewatch a Joker for Leodu.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Probably not. You'll probably still hate it, but I just want to shout it out.
I'll agree with you. I like it a lot better than the first one. It's a movie that I would describe as like very interesting and also boring as shit, if that makes any sense. Like simultaneously both of those things. And for that reason, I can't really call it good, but it is. I appreciated the swing. I will say that.
That's fair. That's very fair. I love it, and I think a rewatch only solidified my love more. Delightful film. So who's starting with number 10?
I'll let you start.
Should we do
you're
like
guest.
10 each 10?
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it that way. Yeah.
Okay. So, for 10, for me, this is a recent watch, and one that made it onto your want-to-watch list, and I'd love to watch it with you sometime soon, given that your love for the band itself, but that will be Kneecap. Kneecap, this is a really, really nice, like, Blu-ray release of it. Amazing
Who did
film.
the release?
It's Curzon, so like Artificial Eye
Okay.
Curzon over here. They did the release, and it actually comes. I find this very funny. It comes with rolling papers.
That is very like them.
Yeah, which I find like absolutely hilarious. But very unfamiliar with Kneecap before watching this. I'd heard, oh yeah, people really like the film. I didn't know anything about the band whatsoever. I've actually been listening to their music since and had a great time. Sick in the Head is a great track. But it's a biopic of sorts, but like calling it a biopic is almost like it almost feels like it's a lie, because a lot of what is showcased in the film, after doing a bit of digging, doing a bit of research, is almost entirely fictitious. All of the band members play themselves, but they kind of just make, like, I don't want to say a shit post biopic necessarily, or like a parody, but it's just like a very heightened, goofy, kind of comedic take on what a biopic would be if you just had really ridiculous, like, oh, this happened and this happened, but then when you read up on it, none of it happened.
Sure, yeah.
It's got a really fun energy that I describe as, if anybody's seen Trainspotting, the opening 20 to 30 minutes before everything goes really downhill in Trainspotting, it's kind of like that momentum just stays on a high for the entire, like, I think it's almost like an hour, 45 minutes or something. It's just like chaotic ride from minute one to the very last minute. The music's great. The performances are hilarious. It's really, really interesting, a lot of what's being said in the film and everything. It's a very political film. If you're familiar with Kneecap, that will make complete sense.
Yeah.
But it's I think one of the most important films of the year. It's one of the funniest films of the year. It's kind of just an ode to creativity, really, and just sticking the middle finger up to the man and all of that stuff. And I loved it. I thought it was a great time, and I do hope it, like, I don't know how well it's gonna do, like, awards wise. I know it's in contention for like best original song, and
Ireland submitted it for best like international feature.
Yes,
I don't know if it's been nominated. I know it's on the short list though.
It is on the short list. Yeah. I'm hoping, like, even I would die happy if I saw Kneecap perform live at the Oscars. That would be glorious. We need to.
I think they would have issues, dude. I'm not 100% sure they would attend the ceremony. They have some pretty big issues with the industry. Their support for Israel, but I don't know if they do that. That'd be cool. I mean, that'd be so crazy, because I got to see them when I was a freshman in college in Ireland. They played like my school's annual like ball, and it was a tiny, like, probably like 100 people or so were in this tent, but it was like legit like one of the best concert experiences I've ever had. Like and then I got so into their music after that. So to see them like do this is really cool, and I'm actually like kind of mad at myself that I haven't watched this yet in time to make this video, but I'm going to be watching it very soon.
I think you'll have a great time. I want to watch it with you. That's what I'm saying. I want
Yeah,
to
yeah, I think
revisit
that's
it.
probably why I haven't as well, is because we haven't had time to do it. So
Yeah, it's so much fun. But yeah, that's my number 10, Kneecap. It's a great time, and there's really no other film like it this year, and that's always a great thing to say when so many films feel kind of stale and just like kind of a copy of a copy. It's like it's one of a few, like, again, I don't even know if I want to call it a biopic as so much as just a really fun, like, comedic drama. Basically, it's just a
yeah,
great time.
yeah,
I highly
yeah.
recommend it. Yeah. What's your number
Cool.
10?
Yeah, that's an awesome pick. So my number 10 is a film that I wasn't sure if I was going to include, but the more I thought about it, I was like, that is one of the most like, you know, amazing like in the cinema experiences I've had this year, just in terms of like kind of mysteriously like sort of figuring the movie out as it goes and then just getting really connected to it as it finishes. And that's the movie La Chimera by Alice Rohrwacher, I think is how you pronounce. I'm so sorry if I butchered that, but so this stars Josh. What's his last name? The guy from
Josh
Challengers.
O'Connor?
Josh O'Connor, yeah.
Mm.
And so he plays basically a guy who has just gotten out of prison, and he goes back to. So he's English, but he's like spent a lot of time in Italy. He goes back to this like rural Italian town where a lot of his friends like make a living by essentially like digging up old like Roman artifacts and then selling them for and they live this kind of like, you know, like pretty impoverished, like sort of precarious existence. I just love the vibes of it. I love Josh O'Connor, I think, is smoking in like literally every scene in the movie. Just him smoking a cigarette, I think, is one of the most iconic images of the year for me. It's very the film almost. I mean, it is. I think the movie that it reminded me of the most was actually Federico Fellini's La Strada, because it's in many ways it's like a neo-realist, like kind of poverty drama narrative about this guy who, you know, gets out of prison and goes back to where he's familiar with and sort of struggles along. But it's much more like there's so much humor in it. There's so much like surrealism and sort of like magical realism, fantasy elements in it that are really, really intriguing, especially when you get into the ending. And yeah, I think it's just one of the most unique voices I've heard expressed in film this year. And so I'm going to be really excited to see whatever she does next, because this was just like, you know, I didn't necessarily expect to just like I just kind of like went into a movie one time, and I think I was actually in Ireland like visiting some friends, and my friend was like, go watch La Chimera like in the theater I work at, and I did, and it was just fantastic. So thank you, Robert, for for suggesting that I do that. And yeah, that's my number 10.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And also, I wanted to say, you mentioned Josh O'Connor smokes a lot in that. I haven't seen the film yet, really want to, but I feel like 2024 has been the year of smoking coming back into mainstream pictures again. It sounds silly, but I feel like we haven't really had a lot of like cool smoking in films anymore. Like a lot of like
Yeah.
I don't know, Joker 2 again has so much smoking in it. Strange Darling has some of the coolest smoking I've ever seen, and I'm just like, I don't even smoke really, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
damn, I miss when actors would sell smoking as something cool. It's not cool, obviously, it's bad, don't smoke, kids, but I don't know, I like
watching
kind of
like 40s noirs, like people are smoking at every scene.
Yeah, and we
it's
don't get
there
those
is
much
something
anymore.
very captivating about the aesthetic of it, for sure. But don't smoke,
it's so
kids.
cool. So number 9. Oh, okay. So number 9. I don't own a physical copy of this, and this one's weird because I watched it online, but I don't know if it's ever going to get a UK release, because it's actually a wrestling documentary. And this is the documentary Bray Wyatt Becoming Immortal. And so for those of you, like, I'm not a big...
Brady was talking about it on stream the other night, right?
We were talking about it yesterday on call, and I was like, I want to save it a bit for the live stream, because I'm not super familiar with wrestling. Brady, my friend, Canadian buddy, he's really, really into wrestling. So over the past couple of years, he's got me into it a little bit more, introduced me to, oh, here are some of the big wrestlers, and here are some of the really popular ones. And I remember a couple of years ago, Brady and somebody else in the community, Jason Brett, I don't know if he's watching, but hi, Jason, if you are. They were a really, really big fan of this one wrestler called Bray Wyatt, who he kind of had a horror aesthetic to his whole getup and everything, and he had a mask that was actually designed by Tom Savini. So he was really big into his like horror films and everything. And he tragically passed away a couple of years ago, just out of the blue. And it came as a shock to everybody. I mean, wrestlers die all the time. I know it's one of those things that just happens, but this wasn't even anything to do with like the like actual act of wrestling. He just passed away, and it just took the world by storm. So when I heard that there was a documentary about him, I knew very little about Bray, but I know he has a dedicated fan base. People love him. I checked out the documentary. It's a pretty lengthy one, about 2 hours and 10 minutes, created by the WWE Network. That's the only way I think you can watch it, unless you look online, I'll say. But it just kind of chronicles everything he did from like a young boy, when he wanted to like what he wanted to do as a young boy, when he first got into wrestling, because I think he was doing it over 10 years or something, had a few different name changes, character changes and everything. Shows his whole progression of climbing up the ranks and then his untimely passing. And it's one of the few films that really just like utterly emotionally destroyed me this year. The last 20 minutes of the film, I mean, everybody I know who's watched it is like bawling, crying at the end of it. It's so powerful. It's so heartbreaking and upsetting. It's like a life that was cut way too short. And there's a lot of interviews from people who were associated with him, who knew him, who recount this stuff. A lot of great archival and unseen footage as like stuff of him doing promos for the WWE Network that never really, they were never publicized before this documentary. So you kind of get a bit of like a peek into what he was like behind the scenes as well. It's a really touching documentary, and I think even for those who are not interested in wrestling, just see a kind of one-of-a-kind figure elevate like the art of wrestling and transform it into something different and unique. It's something that I recommend everyone should check out. Really great
That sounds
documentary.
amazing.
And it's also, I'm pretty sure it's in the top 250 documentaries on Letterboxd. I think it might even be in the top 100 or top 50 or something. It is like really highly ranked. It's got like a 4.2 or something on Letterboxd, and deservedly so. Excellent documentary. Not many people have watched it because obviously, I mean, if you're not subscribed to the WWE Network, you probably won't even know, like, you won't even know it exists. And I think they should have kind of.
That's a sign of a great documentary, though. Sorry to cut you off. Yeah.
Oh no, go for it. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I think Roger Ebert might have said this, but like the sign of a great documentary is that it can make you really invested in a subject that you had no interest in before.
Yeah.
So I mean, and obviously you have some interest in wrestling now after hanging out with Brady, but like for me, like I don't really. It's part of why I didn't see the Iron Claw. Actually, I really need to though. But yeah, no, I'm gonna have to check that out because that sounds amazing.
No, it's a fantastic documentary. I was going to say, I wish they kind of sold it to a big streamer, like even if it was just a Netflix or a Prime or like HBO Max or something, because I think with more eyes on this, it would probably be in like bigger contention for like most people's. It would probably crack more people's top 10 of the year lists or something, because the few people who have seen it love it. And I mean, like, again, if you go check the Letterboxd ratings, they fucking adore this film. But it's just there's so few people have actually seen it yet. So yeah, this is my shout out. Go see Bray Wyatt Becoming Immortal. Amazing documentary, and bring the tissues because you're probably gonna cry. What's your number 9?
Cool. It sounds like a very happy time. Love it.
Oh, it's a delightful time.
Cool. My number 9 is, I think, one that's probably going to appear a little bit higher on your list, but we'll see. That's Trap by Mr. M. Night Shyamalan.
Trap.
And yeah, so I don't know. I feel like every year is like I'm just going to be putting on whatever M. Night Shyamalan does on my list, and it's not going to be on that many other people's lists because other people, I don't know, like. Every single one, like this one, I think this one and Knock at the Cabin, I think both got like a little bit more acclaim than some of the stuff he'd been doing prior, like Old and Glass and The Visit. But this, I don't know, like it's still like way low. I don't know what the average is on Letterboxd, like 3.2 or something. What? Oh, that's crazy.
I don't understand it. I do not understand it.
Anyway, yeah, he just keeps knocking it out of the park. This is like I kind of described it in my Letterboxd review as like his most De Palma film, where he
Yes.
takes like this really he does this like these sort of like Hitchcockian set pieces using very very heightened and almost like cartoonish filmmaking devices in a way. There's a lot of like split diopters in the film. There's a lot of very like conscious camera movements and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially, if you don't know what it's about, it follows this guy who is taking his daughter to a concert, and basically, so he's seeing a lot of like weird, like things that are off about the situation. He approaches this guy that tells him that there's this serial killer on the news in the local area, and they found out that he's going to be at the concert that day, and the entire concert is a trap set up for him specifically. It's a hilarious premise if you kind of think about like the logistics of everything that would have to go right in order for this to happen. But I found that really. I found the way that M. Night plays with the humor of the situation really, really cool. Like,
Yes.
Just the dialogue is something that I just am more and more drawn to with him. Like, just the way that that Cooper like goes up to this guy and is like, "Hey, like, what's the situation here?" And this very like knowing, like expression. I just I think the first time I saw it, I was really, really captivated by everything at the concert, and then like the third act, I was a little. Like I wasn't sure if it totally worked, but on the second watch, I think that stuff really worked for me as well, and it kind of like just completely capitalizes like the tone that he's going for. And I also really, I think she's getting shit for the performance. I really like M. Night Shyamalan's daughter in it.
Yes.
I think she plays like a pop star type person really well. She has a lot of like strange line deliveries, but I think that's like in service of what the film's ultimately doing with a lot of its humor and everything.
Nice.
So yeah, just a really, really solid movie. I think I've seen it like 2 or 3 times already. I'd love to watch it again.
It may or may not. It's going to be on my list at some point.
You don't have to say too much about it if you want to wait until.
I'll just say I'm so happy to see it on your list. I will. Again, I'm not going to get into like my thoughts on the film, but I will just say super quick. Yes, I think there is just this really strange disconnect between most audience goers and M. Night's films nowadays, where I do think it's like, again, it's on my list. I think it's one of the best films of the year, and it's one of those things where I don't know if people don't get the humorous aspect of like nature of the film or anything. I don't want to say people don't get it, because that sounds like such a pretentious thing to say, but I think with Trap, it is probably like the silliest M. Night film we've had in quite some time, like knowingly silly and like very like comedic in nature, I guess, and very just like, I don't even want to say lighthearted because that's not really the right tone, but just like very like wink wink nudge nudge, like he knows what he's doing, he's having fun. It's almost like a victory lap after the last couple of films. He's on such a high right now, and it's just M. Night having fun. And I don't know if people fully connected with that, because I've seen a lot of like discussion when people are talking like negatively about the film, about how it's got like bad acting or it's funny bad, and I'm like, did you watch the same film?
Absolutely.
Funny.
This is like where I just feel like I'm going in circles with people. I just every time I make the same points about how like if you don't think this is intentional, like you are absolutely missing like what he's trying to do here.
Exactly.
But like you can just not take to it, and that's totally fine. But it's definitely intentional.
It's one of those things that like it's an acquired taste for sure, and like for a long time I wasn't even really an M. Night fan, but I did like a full dive into his filmography this year, like knocking out the last couple of ones that I hadn't seen. And no, I think hits and misses outside of like maybe the only one that I've really really dislike is After Earth, because that just doesn't feel like anything M. Night whatsoever.
Sure.
But like everything else of his has this like personality and charm that I adore, even if I don't like the film sometimes. I'll get into my thoughts on the film in a bit, though. But yeah, no, so happy to see it make your list.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. I'm just going to go through some comments real quick before we do.
Oh, of course, of course.
Just got a few more. Winslow says, I found Joker 2 more interesting to think about, albeit not for long, more than watch. That is like the perfect way to to summarize how I feel about it anyway. Like,
that's
it's
very yeah.
Sin says Trap was a big disappointment for me. Okay, yeah, no, I get it. I understand. Yep. Jason says Trap was number 4 on my top 10 list. Nice. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, no, I saw him post about it on his Facebook, and I was like, yes, Jason,
that rocks.
Truther for Trap. Love it.
Thank you for being a true for Trap, True for
He also,
Trap.
I love
Trap
it. The last scene in Trap was so funny. Yes, I love the last scene.
So
It almost
so funny.
It almost read to me like sequel bait. Like it almost read to me like he's doing like a Glass thing again. I don't think he's going to, but like
no. It fits the playful nature of that film perfectly. It's great.
Yeah. His daughter had some great songs in the movie, but she was an awful actor. It was pretty cringe. Again, I kind of think it's all intentional, but I do understand like it's definitely off. It's not like traditional acting for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. I think
Knock the Cabin's great.
Yeah, really strong. Well, cool. What is your number 8? Or wait, did you do 8 already? Or
I've done 10 and 9. So number 8 is one that I think made your honorable mentions. So we'll get to talk about it a little more now. This was higher for me initially, but again, it's just been such a strong like back half of the year that it's down a little bit. But I'm so happy it's still on my top 10, and that is for the UK, the second Yorgo Slam for most film of the year, Kinds of Kindness, which is holy So after making the Academy Oscar awards darling, Poor Things, even though it's very funny to say that that's an Oscar darling considering how much sex and violence and nudity and all of the crazy stuff that's in Poor Things is, and then he decides that he's just going to drop a nearly 3-hour-long anthology satirical comedy drama, thriller, horror in ways, just a bit of an amalgamation of everything, just very absurdist kind of comedy that is going to appeal to maybe 10 people in the world, and everyone else is going to be like, that's the worst film I've ever seen in my entire life. I admire the fact that he really Disney gave him the money for this. Disney helped finance that, or this I should say, along with Film 4, and it's one of the biggest swings I've seen from a director in some time, which is funny to say because again, Poor Things is just so vibrant and just out of this world. But then you get Kinds of Kindness, which is him reuniting with the person who wrote some of his older stuff like The Lobster and Dogtooth, some more of the I want to say
that deadpan kind of yes. I don't know, comedy.
The more darkly comedic stuff, because Poor Things has a very kind of you get these very eccentric performances from Mark Ruffalo and Emma Stone, but in this a lot of the comedy is just how bleak and miserable and just how disgusting everything is in this film that you're watching.
I had several moments when I was like, why am I laughing at this? This is just horrible, like the situation, but I was laughing at it.
It's one of those films that's designed to make you feel bad for laughing at it, and that is a hallmark of a very special film, because there's very few films that can get away with. I know there was one scene in the film that you were like, this might be the edgiest thing I've seen in a Yorgos film ever. Just one line of dialogue about Kool-Aid, if you remember.
Right.
And you were like, this is really edgy. But I think sometimes some filmmakers can go so edgy that it just becomes unpleasant, or it's just mean-spirited. And while there's definitely a mean edge to Kinds of Kindness, I think it's so expertly crafted and it looks gorgeous. The score's amazing. It's got this really, really just terrifying kind of orchestral score, not even orchestral score, but it's just kind of this chanting, it's really unnerving, and has some really great licensed needle drops that are very, very bizarre. But each of the 3 segments kind of have similarities and parallels. There's this ongoing character RMF who features in all of them to some degree, and I didn't even mention this, but it is an anthology film where all of the 6 or 7 actors who are present in the first short are also in every other short. So you get Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, Jesse Plemons, who gives one of the best performances of the year. Jesse Plemons deserves some recognition for his work here. It is maybe my favorite Plemons performance ever, or performances I should say. But Margaret Qualley's in it, Hong Chau's in it, Hunter Schafer. You get all of these actors, I think I said, but Willem Dafoe's in it too, and they're
Yeah.
all playing different characters through each of these three short films, which I find such an interesting kind of gimmick for like an anthology film, because you're so used to, oh, we'll get a different cast for each one and a different director. So seeing all of these actors just transform into different characters, but there's so many subtleties between each of the performances that it doesn't just feel like, oh yeah, they're just doing a variation on the similar character. There's differences in
And they're all like
how they're filmed.
they're all like thematically connected as well. Like
Yes.
like they're all just kind of about like, I don't know, people in you called it like it all goes wrong cinema. Like it's like people in like kind of hilariously bleak situations that they just kind of keep digging themselves further into, kind of thing.
That is the perfect way to sell Kinds of Kindness. Yeah, I think it has one of the funniest final shots of the entire year. I know Mark Commode's review is excellent for it, because he said the final shot made him laugh so much, while other people in his like, I think he saw it at a critic screening, no one else was really laughing, but he was laughing so much that even after he got up out of his seat and went into the like auditorium, he was still laughing at how funny that final shot is. It's incredible. 100%. Again, one of the most audacious films of the year. I know it didn't work for everybody, and I can understand that, because it's such a kind of departure from the recent, like, The Favourite and Poor Things kind of like double feature that he's made, where it's just these more, I don't even want to say traditional films, but accessible compared to something like Dogtooth or The Lobster. But this is him just fully leaning into the sicko shit, and it's delightful if you've got the stomach for it. Although trigger warnings of every kind for everything ever, because it's disgusting. But it's a great time. But yeah, that's my number 8.
That's a good shout.
What's your number 8?
That's a good pick. My number 8 is Furiosa, which you kind of already mentioned in your honorable mentions. But yeah, this was really fun for us, because we got to see it together when I went to visit you physically, and I saw it another time, I think, as well. My wife's dad wanted to go see it as well.
Oh, hell
yeah! I think while it is a very a different film than Furiosa, I think a lot of people kind of exaggerated, like, when the trailer came out, like how digital it was. I think it is, but it's doing a lot of really amazing things with it, in terms of, I think a lot of it, like Furiosa or Fury Road, one of the things that's great about it is how well it tells the story through its action. I think this has a little bit less of that, like, pure, like you're just watching action and that's telling the story, but it has so much great, like, world building about, like, the wasteland, really, like the especially if you're a fan of the Mad Max films. I mean, there's so much great stuff to get out of this that doesn't just feel like, like tacky, like, details just for the fans. It really feels like in service of a broader story. I like how little dialogue there is for a lot of it. Especially Anya Taylor-Joy. I think she has like 30 lines in the film, or something. Yeah, it's crazy. And I love, like, legit, one of my favorite performances of the year is Chris Hemsworth in it. Like, he's just, it's such a amazing, like, he manages to be like hammy and like kind of funny, but he is really, really scary, especially like some of the stuff you see him do to people, like the sort of motorcycle, like, drawn quarter thing that they do to that guy. There's just so much to love in it if you love the Mad Max movies. And, if you're somebody that doesn't like Fury Road because you kind of find it a little bit like, too, like, relentless in the pace and like there's no time to slow down, I think you'll actually like this one more, because there's it's a little bit less, like, propulsive in that way, but there's still so many amazing set pieces. So, it's probably I might have one other movie that does qualify as an action movie, but in terms of like what I think of as like pure action cinema, it's the best movie of the year, really.
Oh, it's so good. And I just want to point out when you were saying, because we were talking about like how sometimes prequels aren't like necessarily the best, and it's rare to have a great prequel. And you said something along the lines, it doesn't feel like just like unnecessary, just like, oh, remember this from Fury Road type thing. Like, it's not just like nostalgia bait callbacky. I remember hearing
the ending is a little bit the ending. I was like just literally like the very last shot, I'm like, I don't know if I need that really.
That's fair.
But
That's very fair.
but everything else is like that. It's just one moment. Like everything else is very.
Are you familiar with like the production history of Furiosa and like why it works so well as a prequel? Like, are you familiar with like Miller's concept?
Yeah, talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, because one thing I absolutely love this. So around the time that Fury Road was coming out, he wanted to make both Furiosa and Fury Road back to back, and originally Furiosa was actually going to be the first film because he had this great idea for Fury Road, just the big grand 2-hour-long set piece. And when he was having actors sign on, so like Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron and everything, he'd actually storyboarded and drafted out every single thing that happens in Furiosa to create this kind of sense of like world building and like backstory. So even though when you're watching Fury Road, some people might think, oh, there's not a lot to the characters here, it's mostly told through like their actions, and there's not like a big exposition dump of, oh, this is my tragic backstory or anything. But all of that information has basically existed for 10 years because everybody who worked on Fury Road would have heard all of the stuff that Furiosa went through and all of this like crazy chaotic like gonzo shit that happens in Furiosa. But because of budget constraints and because Fury Road didn't do amazing at the box office, obviously the project was shelved for a long time. So it's not like he was doing like a Star Wars thing or something where it's like, oh, now it's time to check out who Furiosa was before Fury Road. No, this all existed before, and I think that makes it such an interesting prequel because in many ways it's not really a prequel. It's like we got the sequel first almost, but the prequel was never filmed, or the first film was never filmed. So it doesn't have that member berries aspect to it. And again, I get what you mean with like the very final shot. I think it's a good way of like kind of making both films just like flow into each other perfectly almost. I'd be interested to see how it works on like a double feature going from Furious.
It'd be fun. I do want to do it time. Like, I kind of thought that ended. I was like, that would be a cool thing. I mean, especially because the credits, like the bigger issue was like the credits just like show you like clips of Fury Road.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't like that.
Enough in your own movie but I mean, otherwise it really is for sure.
Yeah, it's just one of, like you said, one of the best, if not the best action film of the year. It's just such a great time, and and
it bombed, which sucks.
It did. Again, I'll say it once more for people who didn't go see it who were interested. Fuck you. I'm sorry. I know it's mean to say that, but like, don't let George Miller films flop. We're not gonna. We don't have many more of these, especially ones with like the budgets like this, and we're never gonna get anything as crazy as this from him again. It's like everyone's always like, where's cool, original, great action films? And then we get something really great and fun and action-packed and just like amazing performances, amazing technology, all of this stuff, and just no one goes to see it. I don't understand. I don't understand. Yeah. Stop complaining that cinema's bad if you're not going to go see good cinema.
That's the thing is like, I get people like kind of raising skepticism about the trailer, like, oh, it looks very digital, but like for you to not go see the film because of that, especially if you're a fan of Fury Road, is like, I just can't really fathom that, you know? Like, it's like, of course I'm gonna go see a George Miller film. I don't know, but
exactly.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
what is your number?
Yeah, what's your number 7? Yeah.
Oh, it's my number 7. Oh, okay. This one's going to be on your list. I think it's going to be a lot higher on your list. But I love this film dearly, but it didn't quite crack. Like, this is my 7. There's not like top 5 material for me. I've seen it twice. The first time I saw it, I watched the screener, and the second time I saw it in a sold out like screening. It was like a one night only UK thing, and maybe my favorite theatrical screening of the entire year. I've never heard like an audience laugh so much. It's so much fun. It's hilarious. It's indie filmmaking at its peak, and that of course is Hundreds of Beavers, one of the most delightful comedies of the year. I'm not going to say too much about it right now because obviously I have a feeling it might be on your list, so we can get into
very high.
Might be. We'll have like a big discussion about it then. But yeah, no, it's just one of the most like energetic films I've seen all year. It's so lovingly crafted. It's kind of a homage to like classic like silent comedy and like very like Looney Tunes-esque in a lot of ways. Just a lot of physical slapstick comedy.
Guy Madden too is like another
dialogue.
Thing
Maybe like 10 words are uttered in the entire film, if that. I don't even know. Maybe like a sentence.
I don't even know if it was 10. I was like, I feel like that's generous.
that might be generous, yeah. But it's like I was saying earlier, Aggro Drift feels like a video game movie. This also feels very much like a
It
video
does.
game movie, which we'll get
It feels like
into, I'm sure, in a
Minecraft
little
or
bit.
something.
But yeah,
It's like they get into the world and they have to go like collect all these materials and you kind of learn the logic of it and
yeah,
it's yeah
it's it's so funny. It's like so the guys who made it, they made a film a few years back called Lake Michigan Monster, which I checked out and I had a pretty good time with. I wasn't like head over heels, but I really admired the craft on display, and it kind of felt like a very long, like absurdist Adult Swim feature length film. This just takes all of the creativity from Lake Michigan Monster and just propels it to I don't know. I can't believe this film was made for like, I think it was like 50 grand or 100 grand or so. I don't even know if it was that much. It might have been less than that. It's a very, very cheap movie, but it's so lovingly crafted in every way. The performances are great. The beaver costumes are just incredible.
yeah
The like matte paintings and like the green screen. Like it's just everything about the film feels so DIY and homemade in so many ways, which just adds to how enjoyable it is. Like it's just something that feels like a bunch of friends got together to make something really funny, something that feels like a throwback to, again, like the era of like silent comedy and more like slapstick traditional comedy that doesn't you don't need just like crazy like people swearing or riffing or any of that stuff. It's just very like stripped back in terms of like what it's trying to
Mhm.
do, but despite the limitations the crew had with, say, like budget, the imagination is just endless with the film. It feels like there's like a new set piece every 30 seconds. Like there's a new gag every 15 seconds. They'll think of something funny, and it's like, oh, what if we get the beavers to do this, or what if oh, we try to lure the beavers in by making like a female beaver or something like that. What if we just have these crazy action set pieces, and it's just like it just ramps up and up and up, and it almost feels like it would get exhausting at some point, because it's like, I think it's like an hour 40, hour 50 or something, but there's never
yeah
a moment where the film really slows down. And to keep that momentum for such a long time, especially with a comedy, because sometimes like you think that for most comedies the sweet spot's like 80-90 minutes or something. I don't know, they're just able to pull it off and craft one of the funniest films of the decade, one of the most creative films of the decade. I almost feel bad it's not higher on my list, because I mean, I have films that I enjoyed more, but I do think, as like just as a testament to just like pure filmmaking, it might even be the best film of the year. It's that good.
yeah
But there are a few I liked a little more. But no, Hundred of Beavers is absolutely amazing. Please seek it out if you haven't. It's so good. And again, I'm sure we'll be talking about it a little more in a bit.
yeah. I'll have a bit more to say about it in a second, so I won't say too much. But yeah,
Oh,
great to hear you have it up that high.
oh, it's so good.
So my next one, number 7, is the only film on my list that I'm pretty sure it's the only film on my list that you don't like. So I don't know how much you'll have to say about it, but
The
um,
holdovers.
no, I counted that for last year.
Yeah.
No, this is Hitman by Richard Linklater. So
Okay.
yeah, I got to see this a couple of times. So I before I saw the film, I went to a Mark Kermode live event where basically he was like interviewing a few guests, and one of them was Richard Linklater there to talk about Hitman, and he sort of talked about the influences of the film. I think what was really relieving about that conversation for me was so many directors talk about their movies in these very like self-serious ways, or and they have all these like existential like themes in the film and all that. And I think there was just such a like joy and like love of filmmaking in like his tone of voice
Yeah.
that really actually translated to the film when I watched it. I thought it was a very like sort of unpretentious, like fun way to approach like a modern film noir setup. For those of you who don't know, it's basically the setup is that this guy he's like a college professor, and he has a side hustle where he works for the New Orleans Police Department, where he is like a fake hitman. So he like pretends to be a hitman for sting operations of people that are trying to like kill their spouses or whatever. And then at one point he meets a woman who he is infatuated with in kind of classic noir way, and he's kind of torn between, just doing his job and, this personal attachment he has to her. Who is the actress? It's like Adria Arjona or something.
I think so. I know she was in
Yeah.
Pussy Island or the Blink Twice or
Yeah.
whatever as well this year.
Yeah, but she's
kind of
fantastic
cool.
in it. She's really kind of the perfect like femme fatale in a lot of ways. And yeah, I just really, I thought it was super funny. All of the disguises that Glenn Powell does in it, with like being the different hitman. He has one where he's like he puts on this like Russian accent, wears this like leather trench coat with a absolutely like stupid wig on. Like it's amazing. But yeah, and at the same time, it is like you do kind of get invested in this character. I know you didn't, but but you do get invested in one second. I'll be right back. I just got somebody at the door.
Yeah, no worries. Hello. I'll talk about Hitman. I thought it sucked. I'm kidding. I didn't really like Hitman very much, but I don't think it's a bad film. I'll discuss this a bit with Jackson when he returns, but I don't think Hitman was terrible or anything. It didn't really do a whole deal for me, and I have a weird relationship with Linklater films anyway. So yeah. Anyway, I can't see any of the comments. Oh wait, maybe I can. How's everybody doing? Oh my god, we do have quite a few comments. I can't really push them to the. Oh wait, can I? Maybe I can push them to the top of the screen. Let me see. Let's see if I can put Jason's on screen. Can I?
Hey,
no, I can't. Hello.
Sorry, I'm back now. My wife just got home. She's not feeling well. Like she came home from work a bit early. So.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah.
I hope she feels better soon. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, me too. It's.
I was just telling the chat about how Hitman sucks. I'm kidding. I was.
You use the time I'm gone to like talk against my film that I've chosen.
No,
That's awesome.
I said it didn't work for me super well, and I mean, I just have weird relationships and opinions on some Linklater films, but I totally get why it works for so many people, because it is a very like lighthearted, fun time. I think I was just a bit disappointed after all of the hype that I was hearing about it. I think I was just a little let down, but it's one I will revisit in the future. I don't hate it or anything. I'm very like, if I did half star still, it's like genuine like 5 out of 10 for me, not like a 4 or a 3 or a 2 or anything. It's just something that I was very middle, very mid on it, but I didn't hate it or anything. And Glenn Powell's funny in it. I do like Glenn Powell. I do agree. The disguises, there are some very, very bizarre and fun ones in the film. And I will say, if there's one thing I do have to highlight about the film, I really like the I don't know how you'd really the phone call sequence. I don't know how you'd really, which one I'm on about.
Yeah.
I think that's a very creative kind of.
He's really. It reminded me a little bit of like what like Park Chan-wook has been up with lately with some of his like technology sequences. Like he's really trying to figure out how to like fit in like new technology to tell like the same kinds of like old fashioned stories that he's interested in. I mean, because this is really, it's something that's as old as time. It's just like, a guy sort of like sacrificing his morals, I guess, for what his other head is thinking. But yeah, no, I think
that your review.
I should just make that review my review. It's no, it's really good. I think it worked well in the theater as well. I think I'm one of the few people that actually got to see it in the theater, because it kind of just went straight to Netflix for most people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was super fun. Anyway, yeah, that's my number 7. We're on your number 6 now.
Number 6, what we got? Oh, okay. Again, this one, I feel so bad looking at this list, because in any other year, something that, like, again, Hundreds of Beavers was 7 for me, but in another year, that could be my favorite film of the year. And in many ways, my number 6 is something I wish I had higher, but there are just films I liked more than it, even though I think this is one of the most unique and special films of the year. I don't own this because it doesn't even have a physical release here. I think it has like an A24 exclusive Blu-ray, but that is Jane Schoenbrug's I Saw the TV Glow, one of the most, I don't know, unique films I've watched all year. I know I keep saying like audacious and bombastic and crazy, but because again, we have had so many just like original, like films from like original voices, and I saw the TV Glow is no exception. I know a lot of people were kind of mid on the Jane Schonberg's past feature, We're All Going to the World's Fair, which I absolutely loved. I kind of related to that film a lot more than I wish I didn't relate to it as much as I do. It's a very, very just I don't know, one of the few films that really gets like internet culture, and I was
Yeah.
excited for whatever they'd make next. And when I heard that they were making a new like big like I don't want to say big budget, but like A24 feature after I think TV Glow must have been made for like 10 grand or something. It's mostly comprised of like webcam footage and just like
Mhm.
phone footage. It's very very
Very
like
lo-fi.
micro
Yeah.
budget, yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I saw the TV Glow in terms of just pure, just like visual spectacle, like a production value, budgetary wise. It's just such a leap. It's one of the most gorgeous looking films of the decade. I think it's the way it uses color, the pure visuals. There's so many great like long takes, so creative, just kind of warners and creative environments that these a lot of the conversations and pivotal scenes in the film take place in, and it's also just like absolutely ripe and like chock full of just like really interesting thematic content. The film follows a kid who doesn't really feel at home in the world. I get in his world really, he just feels very disconnected from reality and finds himself infatuated by a TV show called The Pink Opaque, which is very Buffy the Vampire Slayer esque, like a young adult kind of like villain of the week horror-y show, but not really. I don't know,
Yeah.
just
Like
like one of
Goosebumps was
those.
another thing I kind of
Yeah,
thought
like a
about a little bit.
Goosebumpsy
Yeah.
type thing,
Yeah.
yeah. And so after his friend, who he watches the show with, kind of just up and disappears, a few years pass. He finds her again, and then some weird stuff starts happening. I don't want to say too much because it's kind of just one of those ones that you want to just be along for the ride. And some people, I mean, I've watched it a few times, and I know a few people who've seen it find it a bit too slow, a bit too long-winded, and it's very like mumblecore-esque, I'd say, like just very kind of quiet for a lot of a runtime. There's these bursts of just like very just like crazy things that occur in the film. There's some great musical set pieces that reminded me a lot of like Twin Peaks: The Return, which I really really loved. But it's just one of those films that it kind of just like destroyed me a bit. Like it's
Yeah.
so
I know.
heartbreaking. It's so I I feel like it's going to be on your list. And if you want to share the
It
story,
is.
when you talk about, I'd love you to share the story about when you saw it in a theater, because I think you've told
I
me
can
about.
mention it yet now because
Yeah,
yeah,
tell me
I'll
now.
have a little bit
Yeah,
more to say about it. But
yeah.
I do want to mention that when I went to see it, there's only like a few other people in the theater, and one of them was like a younger, like probably like high school or college aged girl. I don't know their pronouns or anything, but I could tell like the way that they were reacting to the film, I could probably tell they were LGBTQ in some way,
Oh my God.
and especially like through in the third act when he's at like the birthday party sequence and that whole thing, like she was like really like bawling basically,
Yeah.
and yeah, like I remember when the credits rolled, she was like fuck. Like it was
No,
yeah, no, it was very powerful to sort of experience that with somebody who it might have been a little bit more personal to, for sure.
yeah,
uh
it's.
yeah.
I think in a year of films, but like I mean, a lot of the films we're talking about right now, like I think like a Furiosa is just pure spectacle, and like Hundreds of Beavers has a very personal feel to it in a different way. But I think out of all of the films that have came out this year, this is by far the one that I can see like affecting the most people, more so than just
Mhm.
being like an entertaining time at the movies. And yeah, I again, I love my like kinds of kindness and stuff. It's just like real feel bad stuff. But this is something that I think in like generations, years, and even now to come, it's going to be a staple. I think I can't remember who compared it. It might have been Josh Lewis who compared it to like Donnie Darko or something like for
Yeah,
it's like a
I've seen a
modern
few
Donnie
people compare it
Darko.
to Donnie Darko, and
And
I definitely can see it. Yeah.
it's something that I think will absolutely stand the test of time in so many ways. And again, it's my number six, but again, in another year, this would be like my top film of the year. And I feel like I almost feel like it's a crime to have it this slow, just given how good it
No.
is, because it's just one of it's so special. And also, shout out to Justice Smith in it. I'm not usually a big fan of Justice Smith, but he's incredible in the film. Like, he's
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. And also, Fred Durst is in it. How could I not have a film with Fred Durst on my top 10? I say as Y2K came out and that looks like shit. So actually, I retract that statement. But no, Fred Durst is really fun in it, and it's got an amazing score. It looks gorgeous, and I'm so excited for whatever Jane makes next. They're one of the most singular voices in filmmaking right now, and whether you love or hate what they're making, you can't deny there's no one else like them.
No. Yeah.
Amazing film. Like, I love it. I want to watch it again already.
Yeah.
And I've seen it like 3 or 4
I'll be
times.
talking about it a little bit more as well. We can get into it. It's higher on my list, but cool. So actually, I'm going to get into some comments real quick before I do my number 6, so we can catch up. Which one? Jason says, I heard that movie is really weird. I'm trying to remember which one. I think this was Kinds of Kindness. Yeah.
It might be.
It is a weird movie. I don't know if it'd be your cup of tea, Jason, but you can always give it a shot. Winslow says, I have to go. Just wanted to say I'm surprisingly very excited for Better Man, and even more so after seeing that Leon loved it. Really interesting to see how many people aren't aware of Robbie Williams outside the UK, considering so he's huge here.
Yeah. I'll talk about Better Man soon. It's something I'm definitely going to discuss. And I mean, me and you had
it was like a last minute addition for you, right?
Yeah, I watched it yesterday. Like, I wasn't expecting to mention it whatsoever, like, or have it like even high on my list. But no, Winslow, please go and see it if you haven't already. Amazing film. I'll be talking about it shortly. So if you catch up with this later down the line, if you want to hear my thoughts or anything, I'm going to be diving into that soon. But yeah, no, it's a very fascinating film.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool. This is a good question. Winslow asks if we got any Christmas film related Christmas gifts. I did. Maybe I can go first, and then you as well.
I don't know. I mean, I bought myself a lot of Christmas gifts, but I think this year was just like kind of a bit of a difficult year for a lot of people. So I wasn't like showered with gifts necessarily. But I got some cool film shirts. I got like my sister bought me a handful of shirts, and I got like a Chucky shirt, like a Child's Play shirt, which I really like, and also like an original like Exorcist shirt. I'm not huge on the Exorcist, but I love that original poster. You know, of like the priest standing outside of such an iconic shot. So I got some cool like film memorabilia, and then for myself, I just treated myself like a lot of these, like, I don't know, like Long Legs and like Furiosa and stuff like that. They're just kind of like Christmas gifts I bought myself because I was like, hey, I want to splurge out, and I just want to own some of my favorites of the year. So I treated myself kind of, but yeah, no, I'm interested to hear what you got, Jackson.
Yeah, for sure. I got some Criterions. One of them, let's see, there's a couple Spike Lee ones. I got Malcolm X on 4K and Bamboozled.
That's amazing.
Which is the artwork on Bamboozled is like incredible. It's I mean, it's what you're familiar with the poster, but it's crazy. What else did I get? I got Takeout by Sean Baker, which I actually watched the other day, which was really incredible, actually. I got Borenheimer, as you call it, Oppenheimer on Blu-ray. What else what was the other just like regular Blu-ray I got? I can't remember off the top of my. I got a DVD as well. It was Phantom of the Paradise, which I'm super excited to watch at home.
I love Phantom.
Yeah, it was a good Christmas for physical media stuff. Thanks for asking, Winslow.
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Sorry, my cat is here. I don't know if you can hear.
I couldn't, but that's adorable.
Angel Mix CEO of Brat Summer. That is an awesome
Simon.
name.
That's Simon.
Oh, it's Simon. Cool.
Yeah.
Hi, he says The Beekeeper is absolutely god tier to me. Probably my favorite 2024 action flick. Yeah, to be fair, it's an honorable mention for me as well. I've seen it a couple of times. I watched it for my birthday, and it was like the exact type of dumb schlock I wanted for my birthday. It was perfect.
Protect the Hive.
Protect the Hive.
I don't know if you heard they're doing a sequel. I am so excited.
I did hear about this.
It's kind of just like they're filming it now, or like it's set to shoot. There's no official announcement, but I want more of Adam Clay Beekeeper. Oh, amazing film.
Jason says Hundreds of Beavers was such a weird movie. I didn't get it.
No.
It is quite weird, and it's not going to work for everyone for sure.
That's fair. Yeah, it is very, very out there. Just again, it's like it's something we don't really see nowadays. In particular, it's kind of such a throwback. So like, I totally get why it wouldn't work for somebody.
Winslow says Jimmy Carter dead. Yeah, I just looked it up. He is dead at 100. That was very random to bring up, but I mean, very sad. I'm not really like I don't really think any U.S. president is like a great human, but Jimmy Carter's like foundation, like everything that he did like after he was president, where he basically like cured guinea worm in Africa and like does all these amazing like philanthropic things. Very sad to hear. Jason says, I liked Hitman. Glenn Powell was really good. Yeah, he was really good. Yeah, no. I'm glad you liked it as well. I think I did remember hearing that. Just watching on the way to work.
Oh,
wait, what are you watching?
Thank you, Simon.
This. I thought he was talking about like a movie or something. But...
No, thank you, Simon. I'm glad you did. That's great.
Jason says, I didn't realize you got married. I knew you were engaged. Congrats. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I did get married at the end of September, so that was incredible. And my wife's lovely. I hope she's feeling okay. But let's see. Jason says, I've never heard of Robbie Williams. I guess he's a big deal in England. Yeah, Jason, I hadn't either. I just kind of heard about him from Leon recently. So I'm gonna have to like look up what this is all about as well. Yeah. He says, I bought myself the Wild Robot and Transformers 1 for Christmas. They didn't have any more copies of Deadpool and Wolverine and Trap at Walmart. Okay, Wild Robot, actually, did I mention it? I think I did mention it in my honorable mentions. Yeah, incredible movie. Definitely my favorite animated movie this year. And Transformers 1 you just caught up with yesterday, and I think you liked as well, right?
Yeah, I liked it for what it was. I think like the more I think about it, the more I like it. In the moment, I was like, some of this isn't working for me super well. Like, I think it's got a lot of like world building that I wasn't like super interested in. But the thing that really works for that film is Brian Tyree Henry. He's playing Megatron, like the antagonist of the film. It's cool. Kind of like an origin story where it's like seeing his progression from who he initially was to where he turns up in the later like lore of the Transformers universe. And Brian Tyree Henry is just giving such an incredible performance for a film that almost, I feel like in the film, I don't want to say it doesn't deserve it necessarily because it is a solid film, but he's just like leagues above everything else in that film on just like, I don't know, a technical aspect. He's just giving it like 150%, and one of the best like voice acting roles of the entire year. I mean, Brian Tyree Henry's always great, so it's not really much of a surprise. He's just a great actor. But
he's Paperboy in Atlanta. He's great in Joker. He's probably the best performance in Joker.
Yeah, you only have the one scene, but he's amazing in it. Transformers 1's fun. I do need to see the Wild Robot and Trap.
It's really good. Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine. Wait until the end of the list. Maybe I'll have a surprise for you guys.
That's for a different video. That's for a different.
Are you sure? Are you sure? I loved that.
And then he also says, I love getting Criterion. I just got The Great Dictator and Some Like It Hot recently. Very cool.
Oh, awesome, awesome.
Those are two like older films I really like, very classic films I really need to see.
Yes.
I forgot that Great Dictator was on Criterion, but yeah, Some Like It Hot I knew. Yeah. Cool. Well, I'll go ahead and do my number 6 then, right? Because that's where we're at.
It's number 6.
My number 6 is a film that I watched a couple of times throughout the year, and I think I'm including it just because I found it really well made and really funny, but it just was really like personal to me. It just really was one of the most like reminded me of growing up kind of movies, and that's Snack Shack by Adam. Is it Raymer?
Adam Raymer, I think. Yeah.
Raymer. Okay. So if you don't know, he's the director of Dinner in America, which Leon keeps telling me to watch, and now I really need to. And he also did a horror movie called The Bunny Game that everybody seems to hate, but we'll forget about that one right now.
Yeah, that one sounds terrible.
but no, Snack Shack's amazing. So it basically follows these two, like, how old are they in the film? Like 15 or 16?
Something like that. They're just like like teenagers or something like that.
Yeah, like teenagers doing like a summer job. So they I think they want to have some little extra money for the summer for all of their little side hustles. One of them, who played by the guy from the Fabelmans, is
Sammy
like
Fabelman.
the most. Yeah, he's like kind of destined to be like, I don't know, like a Kevin O'Leary, like money mindset entrepreneur type character. Like every single thing in his life, he's always like looking, how can I exploit this and make money off of it? And the film like plays that for comedy in so many great ways. But they basically decide to buy or like rent for the summer this swimming pool's snack shack and sell snacks and make money off of that. They end up way overpaying for it, which is a super funny scene. But yeah, and at the same time, there's this girl that moves in next door to the main character, and he's obviously really infatuated with her, and there's kind of a love triangle situation that goes on. There's also this other friend that they have who's a little bit older, who is kind of like the, like buy you beer and kind of drive you places type friend. And it's set in, I believe it's set in Nebraska as well. So really, for me, just really, really a great depiction of growing up in America. And, kind of like, it reminded me so much of like my summers in high school, especially. And I won't spoil it, but there's a detail that happens in the third act that is very personal to me in terms of something that I experienced myself in high school, having to do with loss. And just love the way that was handled. It's in addition to being like such a funny film, it really, really emotionally hit at the end. And I was like kind of blown away. I was like, nobody's talking about this movie, and it's got a very small release. I think we watched it together, and then I watched it on a plane one time as well. Ended up crying on a plane, which is that's always fun when that can happen. But
that third act is just absolutely devastating. It's again, I kind of wish that was on my honorable mentions as well. It's such a great film. I mean, you mentioned the director's previous film, Dinner in America. I'm just gonna say right now, I think I've told you this before, but I think Dinner in America might be my favorite film of the decade. Like, in terms of just everything that's out, I think it's my favorite film. Like, it's one of those kind of lightning in a bottle, just like this is perfect to me type films. And I was just sold on anything this guy made next, and I was so excited to check out Snack Shack with you. I absolutely loved it. It's great. And I think he's got another film coming out too with Kyle Gallner and Samara Weaving, and it's like I think it's like a horror film or something. I don't know much about it, but I'm sold.
The Bunny Game Part 2.
No, please not be the Bunny Game Part 2. No. But I'm very, very excited for what he makes next. But Snack Shack, it's really funny. The guy who, I forget the actor's name, but Sammy Fabelman, I'm just going to call him that. It's like how everyone calls the guy McLovin. That's not his name.
I think it's that like Gabriel LaBelle. Is that right?
Gabriel LaBelle. That's it. Gabriel LaBelle. He's in Saturday Night. And I didn't like Saturday Night, but I think he's good in it. He's it's like a
he's good in everything that I've seen him in.
I think Saturday Night is because he's really good in it. But it's very funny. It looks amazing as well. Like I can't remember. I don't think it was shot on film, but it has this very kind of like throwback like feel to it. That's just really. It's just luscious. It's so vibrant and colorful, and
it's doing that without being like very self-conscious of it. Like, I know that was one of your issues with The Holdovers, is that it's very it's kind of like very in your face about like those old-timey sort of things.
Yeah, like it's like sorry.
but I mean, I think the poster for Snack Shack is so much like a 70s movie. It's actually reminded me a lot of Dazed and Confused as well. The overall film. It has more of like a plot, I would say. Like it's not a total hangout movie, but a lot of the joy of it is just hanging out with these characters and watching them do just insane stuff.
Yeah, it's something that like with The Holdovers, the thing that irked me about that was it was just like it opens with like old MPAA ratings and old logos, and it's got this shitty film grain. Sorry, the film grain. Sorry, I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna try and be nice for Holdovers fans. But yeah, it's just it was so like it was trying so hard to replicate that atmosphere. But something like Snack Shack or even the film on my next list, which is very surprising, they kind of do it in a more subtle way, where it's not like again making it like very obvious that, oh, this is a stylistic choice. It's just, it has that kind of feeling of nostalgia, even though you've never experienced, like, these characters are all new. It's not like we're watching a sequel to a film that came out 20 years ago. It's just new characters, but it has that retro kind of vibe. And like you said, it's something that I imagine so many people are going to be able to relate to on a personal level, just for like stuff they did in their teenage years and everything. And it's just so much fun. It's so much fun until it isn't, but even when it's not fun, it's so like emotionally investing. And yeah, no, one of the year's best. Again, I'm sad it didn't make my list, but yeah, great recommendation, and great.
Yeah,
I'm so
awesome.
happy it's on your list.
So what's your number 5 then?
My number 5. So Winslow, I don't know if you're still here, but if you catch this up later down the line, my number 5 is a film I saw yesterday, and that's Better Man, directed by Michael Gracie, I think his name is. Michael Gracie previously directed The Greatest Showman, which I think is a steaming pile of shit. I hate it. One of the worst musicals I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Kind of an evil film in many ways, glorifying one of the most sadistic, awful pieces of shit ever. Awful film. So when I hear that this man's making another musical, and it's a musical about a musician who's only famous in England, really, and some European countries that I'm familiar with, because I'm in the UK. I was born here, and Robbie Williams, he's a household name for so many people. But was I ever like eager to see a biopic about him? Not really. So when you have all of these factors, I'm just like, why would I go see this? And then the team behind it come up with the perfect pitch. What if Robbie Williams is played by a CGI monkey? And throughout the entire film, from the first frame to the last, he's just a monkey. He's voice acted. He's motion captured. No one pays any attention to it. It's just
He looks
Robbie
like Caesar
Williams.
in Planet of the Apes, kind of.
He does.
Like in the
yeah,
new
it's
ones.
kind of got that like vibe to it. And I don't know. I think Weta might have worked on it. I might be wrong about that. Don't hold me to it. But I think one of the big like animation teams, animation houses worked on it, or like what do you call it? Motion capture, that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it's a film that it sounds really gimmicky, because I'm just like, is the film really going to be able to sustain this like really silly premise, especially given that we've had so many biopics over the years, and so many of them are just kind of like chalk standard, like something like A Complete Unknown. I haven't seen it yet, but that kind of just looks like it's doing the walk the line thing. We've had like Bohemian Rhapsody and something like Straight Outta Compton, which I like Straight Outta Compton, but one of my big issues with that, and Bohemian Rhapsody in particular, is how those films have the involvement of like remaining like like band members and like artists for the films kind of depicting their life. And in most biopics, they kind of try to make it a bit squeaky clean and hide all of the, I don't know, the less glamorous side of things, unless they're dead, of course. If you watch like a Johnny Cash documentary, Johnny Cash Walked the Line or something, you're going to see all of the nasty stuff in that, because he's dead. What the fuck's he going to do, type thing. But with a lot of modern biopics, especially when the artists are alive, you don't really get that like grit to it. Better Man somehow manages to be not only my favorite biopic of the year, but one of the best biopics I think I've seen in my entire life, purely because of how unfiltered it is, how unrestricted it is to delving into the psyche of an individual who almost like throughout the film you almost feel like he doesn't believe he's got it. He doesn't believe like he's worthwhile, and it's a very, in many ways, like self-destructive film in so many ways, although it kind of it's full of like craftsmanship and love, but it's just a very interesting like deconstruction of fame and what it can do to an individual who's like pushed into the spotlight at such a young age. Because Robbie Williams, he was in a boy band in the UK called Take That, one of the maybe the most famous UK boy band. Well, not the most famous. You get like,
I was looking at like
stuff,
the Beatles do exist, but...
yeah, like the Beatles do exist, but like for like the 90s, 2000s and stuff, they were like one of the big bands. And he was thrust into the limelight, I think 15 years old or 16 years old, and he says in the film something like, because he was pushed into the limelight at that age, he's basically felt like he's always been 15 for all of these years, which is why he acts so like juvenile and like monkey-ish, which is why he's portrayed by the monkey in the film. It's kind of like
I was going to ask
thematically
if there was
linked.
reason like why they made that
Yeah,
that
because
choice.
he's
Yeah.
such a like. If you go on to say like his Wikipedia page and read about him as a person, he was a very crazy person, constantly doing drugs, saying really outlandish things, like like getting naked on stage, like sleeping with everyone in the business, just a real like kind of like superstar type character. And in many ways, it almost feels like he is the basis for so many of these like biopics. And like you think of something like Walk Hard, which satirizes like, oh, he has a really bad time and his dad doesn't believe in him and he gets addicted to drugs. But like, no, this all of this actually happened to him. So it's like it's taking all of these like cliches of the biopic, but injecting them into just like a really tragic and kind of miserable like motion picture that I found super captivating. And you were saying with Snack Shack, but there was a sequence in the third act that really kind of you were really able to relate to it due to something like that happened to you personally. And Better Man has something very, very similar in terms of just like an emotional beat that occurs in the film involving a member of Robbie's family. And I don't think, outside of maybe Bray Wyatt, the Bray Wyatt documentary, I don't think I've cried so much at a film this year compared to like Better Man. It's something that it's so like it's so much, but I can see it being a bit sappy for some people, but it worked its wonders on me in ways that I never expected for the fucking CG monkey biopic about a member of a boy band. Like, I did not expect like to be weeping at that or even say it was a particularly good film, but just outside of just how great it is thematically and how solid the performances are and everything, it's such a well-directed film. I mean, I enjoyed Wicked for what it was. I know a lot of people really didn't like Wicked because of like some of the lighting choices and everything, but this is just an incredible musical. Like, there are so many great bombastic musical set pieces. It takes music from Williams's career. I mean, he's been making music for like 30 years now, and recontextualizes them to like points in his life, and like there's new recorded versions of them. There's musical set pieces. There's one to his song Rock DJ that's probably the high point of the film, both like in terms of just how energetic it is, but also in terms of like the happiest moment in the film. And it's just this really elaborate kind of like 4.5 minute long one take set piece that goes through like so many different areas of London. And I was just kind of like, holy shit, I'm blown away by this. Obviously, there's a lot of digital stitching and stuff like that, but the scale of so many of the like musical set pieces in the film just kind of blew me away. And I was like, damn, I liked Wicked, but this is really putting that film to shame in terms of just how, I don't know, just well crafted it is for a musical. And it kind of makes me want to go back and rewatch The Greatest Showman to see if I was a bit too harsh on it, because Michael Gracie he knocks it out of the fucking park with this film. It's one of the most well crafted biopics I've seen in forever. It's one of the best musical, like jukebox musical films I've seen in forever. It's got great performances. It like tugs at the heartstrings. It's eye-opening and unfiltered and just very authentic, and like I don't know. It's just one of the best films of the year, and I'm shocked that I'm saying that. I feel like that's the sentiment I share so much in both my review and when I talk about it to people, because it sounds like I'm joking when I say that this is one of the best of the year, but it truly is. Like, it wowed me like few other films have this year. And if it's playing near you, even if you have no knowledge of who Robbie Williams is, and if you don't live in the UK, you absolutely probably won't have any knowledge of him. Just I'd recommend going to see it, just because it's a really eye-opening just portrait into one of the most.
I'll look into seeing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be here, because again, like it's not, it doesn't have that built-in audience like it might in the UK, but you really sold it. I mean, like I'm super excited to check it out.
I thought it was great. I think Paramount's releasing it in the States as well, so hopefully they'll give it a bit or like States of North America, so hopefully they'll give it a bit of a push over there. But like I do think it's something that it's gonna be seen, like, people won't see it now. I don't think it's gonna make much at the box office, but it'll hit streaming, and in a couple of years I think it will be up there as like something that people consider one of the best biopics ever made. Which I know recency bias is a thing and everything, but I haven't been that impressed by like a biopic like that in so long. But yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, I'll stop gushing about this. It's just, oh, so great. I loved it.
Oh, awesome. Good to hear. That was number 5, right?
Yes, that was number 5. Yes.
Okay. So my number 5 is the most recent film on here in terms of like when I've added it onto my list. I had to watch it a second time to like confirm that it would be on my list because I really connected to it the first time, but it was so much to take in. It was like I couldn't believe I was like, I definitely needed to process this a little bit more. But that's Queer, directed by Luca Guadagnino. Yeah. So this is so he had another film come out this year, Challengers, which we're going to talk about later, I'm sure.
Yes.
And I wasn't as huge on it on Challengers, and in general with Guadagnino, I think he's always, basically every other film I had seen from him was like 3 stars for me. I always found that he struggled a little bit with like developing characters beyond just sort of like universal experiences. I think he struggles a little bit with sometimes he can be a little bit too abstract for his own good. Which is funny because Queer is very, very abstract. But I don't know, something about this just clicked for me. I think a part of why it worked was it's essentially autobiographical, not for Luca, but for the author of the book, William S. Burroughs. The book that it's based on, and so Daniel Craig, who stars in the film, is basically playing William S. Burroughs after he fled to Mexico in the 1950s. And so I would say like the first hour or so of the movie is this like, I don't know, like chill vibes sort of like portrayal. It reminded me mostly of like Call Me by Your Name of Lucas films, because you're just kind of like soaking in the architecture and just like the beauty of Mexico City, and you're watching Daniel Craig walk around in a all white suit, like sort of in like an Alfredo Garcia suit, smoking a cigarette. Another great cigarette horror movie, smoking. Actually. And he's hanging out with some of his friends, and particularly he's trying to hook up with a lot of men in Mexico City. He's also addicted to heroin. He's like a severe alcoholic. So you're kind of seeing, a lot of the first hour is just sort of like character building, but at the same time, he pretty quickly into the movie, he meets this guy who's like a newcomer actor. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. But he plays this character, Eugene Allerton, who Craig's character becomes really infatuated with, and he it almost feels like it goes beyond romance in the sense that he keeps saying that he wants to talk to him without speaking. He talks a lot about how obsessed he is with the concept of telepathy, and one of his goals in the film is to seek out what's basically ayahuasca, the psychedelic drug ayahuasca, but not like everybody talks to him about it, and they're like, oh, like you want to like trip on this? You do realize it's not like a drug in that sense, right? And he's like, no, I'm interested in like the telepathic powers of it. And so, yeah, eventually the second half of the film is like them in South America going through various kind of experiences there. And it does kind of culminate in a sense related to this ayahuasca stuff. But I won't spoil too much of the end, but especially that second half has some of the most kind of abstract, confident images I've ever seen Luca do. And the ending in particular, I think, is really, really incredible. Like the last scene, like there's like a 15-minute epilogue, but particularly like the last scene of it, I think is really powerful. And yeah, I just think it's one of the best, like, it's probably the best, like, well, maybe another movie, but it's one of the best like character study movies, I think, of the year. Okay. And it's the first time I feel like Luca has really like come into his own, where he's taking all of these, art house like influences and really making them into something that feels like him. And he has like sort of the material already, because it's, autobiographical, to develop the characters into, I think, 3-dimensional figures. it just worked on a whole other level for me compared to a lot of his other stuff. So for
Yeah.
that reason, I kind of had to include it. And also, Craig is just really, really incredible. Like, like if he, I kind of said in my second review, but if he gets nominated for an Oscar, which I'm really hoping he does, they either have to play this clip of him like squealing like a pig in a restaurant, or this like 5-minute take of him doing heroin, like the entire take.
Yeah, no, I really, really want to see Queer. Like, we'll speak about the other Luca movie shortly, that he drops this year. But yeah, I really wanted to see Queer, but it was just playing nowhere near me, which like frustrated me to no end because I mean, again, we'll speak shortly. But
Can I go for 1 second? I just have to Renee's just.
Of course.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. Hello, everybody. I'm back. How's everybody enjoying the stream so far? I say I'm back. I never left. I've been here the whole time. But yeah, I hope everyone's enjoying the stream so far. Here's a fun thing. I've got some notes for like the movies that we're talking about. I wrote down my favorite notes in this Star Wars notepad. I had like my best of recap stuff here too. It's the first time I've ever like written notes for something like this, but I'm taking the best of the year list very seriously. I mean, I brought the physical media stuff too. I had to showcase my steelbook for Longlegs, of course. But yeah, no, I hope everyone's enjoying the stream so far. It's always so much fun to do this. Hello, you're back. I was just saying back to the live stream and hoping everyone's enjoying it.
Yes, for sure. Sorry about the breaks. I was just helping
no
Renee out. She's with not feeling super great, but
no, I hope she feels better soon, man. I'm really
no, it's just some bug.
let
me see.
I was saying, yeah, Queer, excellent, sounds excellent, and I hope I'm able to see it soon. I wish I put it on my honorable mentions, because, I think Luca's on a pretty solid streak right now, so I'm very excited to see that, and you sold me on it even more.
Yeah, I hope I didn't spoil too much of it, because there's a lot of, like,
absolutely not.
Again, it's like a lot of, like, I gave away a lot of, like, technically what the plot is, because it's a very vibey movie, for sure.
Oh, that's fine. I don't mind
that. Cool, so... Simon says, I know you weren't too hot on Nosferatu, but I was shocked at it being a last-second surprise. It's not into my top 5.
Oh,
yeah. I was kind of hoping that was what it would do for me. I feel like it's a film that could like get a little higher if I watch it again. I felt like it was a little like. I don't know what's the best way to put it, but it's a little dress up. I think it just kind of felt to me like I was frequently asking myself, like, I like this, but what's the point in a way? There were a couple performances that didn't work for me, but overall, I think it's a pretty strong adaptation in a lot of ways. Definitely understands what's good about like the original and the Herzog film and stuff. So yeah, I'll have to revisit it because I've already really I've been thinking about like so many aspects of it. Like I'm gonna have to revisit it in the next like week or so, to be honest. Yeah. Jason says, I didn't think there'd be so much holdovers talk on this stream. True. I mean, I guess you could technically say that we could, but because it came out this year for the UK, but it's definitely not a film that would make your list. So
before we even did this stream, we were initially gonna do our like worst of the year at the start, and we're now, like Jackson said, we're doing that for a future stream. But I was like, we have to talk about the holdovers at least once. I have to share my distaste for it at least once, and I think I've done it like 10 times already on the stream, and it's probably gonna keep happening. But it's not even intentional. I think it's just being brought up, and then I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also says, when watching A Complete Unknown, I was thinking, what if Bob Dylan was a monkey? Such a bizarre choice. I think that's what, yeah, I mean, like, that's the part of what's intriguing to me about it. But yeah, very, very strange choice for sure.
It's just bizarre, and it shouldn't work as well as it does.
Yeah. He says, I like biopic parodies like Walk Hard, the Weird Al Yankovic story,
yes,
and Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping. So I've seen 2 of those 3. I think Leon's seen all of them.
Yes,
I still need to see the Weird Al movie. But yeah, Walk Hard is like legit like one of my favorite movies just in general. And yeah, Pop Star is pretty fantastic too, like pretty underrated movie.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
I Walk Hard is just it's kind of like when people say like Blazing Saddles killed the traditional western because of how funny it was and how satirical it was and like every aspect of just like digging into like everything that you possibly could about that. Walk Hard should have done that for the musical biopic, but then we got the Bohemian Rhapsodies and films that just still did the same shit, like
Yeah,
unapologetically, and I'm
exactly.
like, it should have killed that kind of biopic, but it didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Work Hard, one of the best films ever made. It's just so funny.
And then Simon says, "Gotta get to work, but this has been a great listen. I'll be catching the VOD later." Yeah,
Oh,
cool.
thank
Thanks
you
for
so much. Have a
listening.
great day, Simon.
And we got Josh back as well, which is awesome. So yeah, good to see you, man.
Hi, Josh.
Um, cool. I just did my number 5, so we're getting to the letterboxed top 4.
Ooh,
What is
okay.
the number 4 for you?
Okay. So this top four is incredibly, almost interchangeable. Like any of these, I've
I
said
have the
this for the
same thing.
last
It's
few
like
months.
the number like 10 through 5 are like, okay, I feel like pretty confident about this order, but then the top 4, I'm like, it could be like any of them, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been such a good year. And initially, this was a lot higher, but after a few rewatches and after seeing a few films, I had to bump it down a little. And I think you'll also feel that same way about bumping it down a little, but I still love it. And that is The Substance, my number 4. One of the again, I was saying earlier about Hundreds of Beavers being a great theatrical experience. I remember seeing The Substance. There wasn't that many people there, maybe about 10 people, including myself. And I've never. I've never left a film where the title card or like the directed by credit appears and people just kind of laugh confused. Like they're confusingly laughing and they're just like, what did I just watch? Just kind of
Yeah.
like sheer confusion. And
Yeah.
it was
I think
one
that's why
of
I
the.
had to include it as an honorable mention, even though
Yeah.
it kind of like wasn't as good for me on a rewatch, but it the theatrical experience was the most, how can I describe it? It was the most like physical. It was one of the most compelling. One of the most like, yeah. Again, like when it was over, the entire crowd was just like is full of laughter about not necessarily like laughing at the film, but like what did we just all experience
Yeah,
together?
it's
Yeah.
it's just again, it's one of the just I keep using the word audacious, but I think this year's been full of audacious films.
Hmm.
It's so fun, it's so disgusting. It's like the body horror film of the year. People compare it to Cronenberg. I really don't see that very much, like at all. I think like in terms of the body horror aspects of the film, it's way more in line with like the splatter stuff of like Peter Jackson or just like a lot of like Brian Yuzna stuff like a Society or something like that. Like
Society
there's
from
so
Beyond
many.
was another one that was kind of on my mind in the third act.
Yeah, that it's just
Yeah.
it's such like an amalgamation of influences from so many different areas. It's a satirical film in many aspects. It's very funny at places, but then it's also just like very just disgusting and just like kind of holy shit, what am I watching type thing. Demi Moore's amazing in it. I think she
So
should
good.
be in like with a lock for like best actress. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but because the Academy is like always a bit about
You know, what'd
horror
be
stuff. But I
super
feel like
funny is like, because I read some like articles about like Oscar speculation and stuff recently, and there was one list where it like kind of made predictions, and it said that Demi Moore wouldn't get one, but that Margaret Qualley would for supporting, which would be so like ironic because like
that
that's
would be
exactly what
very
The Substance
ironic.
is about.
Yeah, like
Like
if that happens, I'd be like, oh my god, because like I mean, Margaret's amazing in the film. Don't get me
she
wrong,
is. Don't
but
get me wrong. I love her as an actor. One of my favorite young actresses working today. But I think Demi Moore is like definitely the performance you got to look at for that film.
yeah, no, she's so great in it. But it's one of the most unforgettable films I've seen all year, and I've seen it like 2 or 3 times now. And the first time I watched it, I was just head over heels. I was like, this is fucking incredible. The last like 20-30 minutes of the film are gold, like perfect in my opinion.
Yeah.
I know people, yourself included, have a bit of an issue with kind of some of the like it's a bit hollow in terms of its like commentary necessarily, and I understand people taking issue with that, but I feel like that might be the point. I feel like a lot of the stuff it's not really trying to it's very satirical, and I don't think it's trying to make too much of a statement, although there are aspects of it that obviously are. I mean, you get Dennis Quaid being like a greasy kind of like like TV executive called Harvey, who's just absolutely despicable.
Oh, he
But
is called Harvey. That's right. I
the
forgot.
funny thing about The Substance for me is like, even though he's despicable, in any other film, that character would be like a huge gross sex pest, or he's Harvey Weinstein, something like that. But he doesn't do anything bad in the film. He's just gross to be around more so than anything. He's like
The things he
sweet, but
says are very gross, and they're the things you can imagine that somebody like Harvey Weinstein
yeah.
would
But
say to you. You know.
he never does anything in the film, and I think that again, it's like kind of the point. It's like this like artificiality of everything going on that like it almost feels like a parody of a satirical film, like almost. I think, and it's
I can see that,
like,
actually. That's it's I found, because I found more like this on the rewatch. I actually found that like the satire was more layered than I thought it was. Like I was like, okay, this is actually much more interesting than I thought it was.
yeah,
I just thought it was a little like mean spirited for its own good, like in the sense of like what happens to the Demi Moore character. Like, I don't know if you're comparing it to something like The Fly. It's like where that film, you know, like, yes, the lead character's hubris is something that, you know, gets them into trouble and leads them to where they go at the end of the film, but it doesn't really like blame them for it. Whereas The Substance kind of does in a way, but it's also, don't get me wrong, it is clearly blaming the industry and like everything around her as well. But she's very like culpable, I would say.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
I like kind of like when I was talking about Strange Darling earlier, something I totally get the kind of like issues people have with it, such as yourself, like about like some of the like again, it is very mean spirited, like in particular with the last section of the film. So I totally get that. For me, I had a delightful time with it, but I also am some sick fuck who has kinds of kindness on his top 10. So is that really a surprise?
No. I understand. I actually, I'm sure that's how Coralie Farge feels about the film. I think she, and I think it's very like ballsy of her to like take that position of like, you know, yes, like it is the fault of the industry, but it's also the fault of you know, like the person to an extent. I mean, I think that's it's. I don't know if it fully works in the movie for me, but I do think it's a you know, it's an interesting position to take, and it's worth watching for sure.
No, absolutely. You won't watch anything else like it this year.
Oh no. My God.
But yeah, that's my number 4.
Cool.
Don't eat while you're watching it.
I cannot eat while I watch. Like it actually gave me like problems like eating Alamo Drafthouse's popcorn like at future like events. I was like, just gonna not order anything this time. But anyway, number 4. So like you said, like these go in like any order. Like these are all like 5-star films for me. So again, very good year. I did end up picking Anora for number 4. Yeah, so we're going to talk about this again with you, so I'll be kind of brief about it. But because this is directed by Sean Baker, who I loved before I saw Nora, and then I've actually been getting even more into like his early stuff lately, which I saw Starlit within the last month. I watched Takeout the other night, which I thought was fantastic. Honestly, one of my favorite films of his. But yeah, I think my 2 favorites are probably Red Rocket, which he made before this, and then Anora. So this follows a young like stripper slash sex worker. It's kind of a little bit vague as to like, you know, like what all she does, but so she meets so she has a bit of a background where she speaks a little bit of Russian, and she meets this young guy who's like the heir, the son of like Russian oligarchs, and he you know, like they have like he invites her to a party and stuff, but eventually like he kind of pays her to like be his girlfriend for a little bit.
Yeah.
And they have this great experience where they end up like very hastily deciding to get married in Vegas, and then eventually the Russian parents find out about it, and they send these people that work for them to try and get the marriage annulled. And it's, so for one, it does, in the first half of it, it really does make you like buy into this like romantic image, even for how like silly this premise is. Like that people would get married after knowing each other for like a week. Although I do know some people in real life that have done that, but that's another story. But it's so And then what I really love about it is for the like second half of it, it's and this is part of why I think it like has had so much critical acclaim, is like it's kind of like a mainstream comedy. Like some people
Yes.
have compared it to something like The Hangover, where people are trying to like sort out this crazy situation, and it's just like milking every little bit of detail you can out of that.
Yes.
Um, the Russian actor, there's one guy in particular who's in like all of Sean Baker's movies.
Yes, I know
He's
who you're on about.
amazing. They
Yeah.
also, there's this guy Yuri Borisov, I think, who is he was in that movie Compartment Number 6.
Yes.
Yeah, he's really great in the film. He has this sort of class background that's very similar to the Honora character. And the whole film, that whole section is like they're just constantly being like so impressed and like astounded by how like how much of like a firecracker and over the top this character is, and how much she keeps sort of, you know, undermining what they're trying to do at every corner.
Yeah.
It's like how hard it is to contain her. And so that's really satisfying to watch as somebody in the audience who's like rooting for her. But at the same time, I think the ending of the film is like probably my favorite ending of the year, or at least up there. It's just like it doesn't let you escape the sort of class reality that she has to live. And you kind of wonder, like, okay, like was she this craziness that she's doing for all this, you know, she is reacting to the situation, but like, was this kind of a performance from her? Like, was she, you know, like just kind of putting this on to be strong? Yeah, I think it sneaks up on you, and it, you know, I kind of described when I left the film, I cried, but not at the ending. I cried afterwards when I was walking back to the car and really thinking about like, wow, I've really gotten to know this character so well and kind of understand her situation. So, yeah, incredible movie as always with Sean Baker.
I mean, it's gonna be. I'm gonna be talking about it shortly as well. But I basically echo every sentiment you just had about the film. I think it's something that it probably maybe Red Rocket's better. I don't know, but like Honora is it's so fun. It's so heartbreaking in so many ways. It's again, yeah, it has that level of mainstream comedy where it almost takes like it just takes these strange like genres. Like there's like a section in the film that almost feels like it's like a Funny Games home invasion played for laughs. And
it does. It really does feel like Funny Games or something.
Yeah, it's like I don't know how you make Funny Games genuinely funny, but like it does. And then there's like a stretch of it that has like the chaotic nature of, like you were saying, The Hangover, but also something like Uncut Gems, really, where it's just like you see
Uncut Gems for sure.
Figures, just like absolutely just everything. It all goes wrong cinema almost. It feels like, but you're happy it's going wrong in a lot of ways. But just seeing like some of these characters fail at what they're doing and Annie succeed and stuff. But I absolutely loved it too, and I can't wait to talk about it shortly as well. But no, I'm so glad to see it make your top 4. What a picture! Sean Baker is on like just an incredible role right now.
So good. One last shout. I also wanted to mention the soundtrack, which has a lot of pop songs you've definitely heard before. So similar to Red Rocket, but just used in such a different way that sort of like puts you in the mindset of the lead characters in the film. And just what a amazing like sort of pastiche artist Sean Baker is.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And also, I'm going to use this to shout something out, to share a bit of information that might interest you. So, the song that plays throughout Honora, Greatest Day, I think it is, that is by a band called Take That. Robbie Williams was in Take That, which leads to Better Man. So,
cool.
He's not singing on that song. This was after he left the band, but there is kind of a link there. So, Take That are kind of having a bit of a resurgence this year for the Monkey movie and the Sean Baker movie. I like that there's a link there. I just thought I'd mention that. But yeah, no, can't wait to talk about Honora shortly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
we're at number 3 for you, I think, right?
Number 3. Okay, so this is one that you have on your list, and I'm excited to finally talk about it a little bit more. And that is, of course, Trap. I have to see your book. So yeah, when I first saw Trap, I was absolutely head over heels for it, but for a lot of the year, or for like when I first saw it up until now, it was kind of around that like 7, 8 spot on my list for a long time. And I rewatched it last month or the month before, like 2 months ago, and again I had a great time with it, but it kind of stayed at that place for a while because I was just head over heels for so many films. But I revisited it last week, and I was like, fuck it, I can't. I'd be lying to myself if I said this wasn't one of my favorite films of the year. Like, just even more so than some of these others that I've been speaking about. I think Trap might be my. I don't know. I don't think it's M. Night's best film. I think Unbreakable will always be M. Night's best film, unless he does something that completely knocks it out of the park in the future. But if I were to put an M. Night film on at any point, it would be Trap. I could go back to this film time and time again because I just love it. I have such great time with it. I think it's the peak of his just like kind of like a goofball era, I almost want to say. Like it's so like I don't it sounds like
It's probably my favorite of his like fun films. Like
yes.
it's
Fun,
yeah.
Like, because I don't want to call it goofy, because that almost sounds derogatory when I'm really not meaning it like that. Because the film is it's so playful, I should say. Like, it's so like I was saying a little bit earlier, it is very much like winking at the audience with a lot of the lines of dialogue, and it's like, oh, imagine if this killer was right next to us type of dialogue, or oh, there's an exit right there. Imagine if he just escaped right now. And the film's always toying with you, and it's almost like it knows you're watching the film. Not in a fourth wall kind of way, but it's very, very on the nose, and I find that absolutely delightful for this, especially after we've had kind of a string of like something like Glass and something like something like Glass.
Glass is fantastic.
No, I'm not being.
Oh, just in
Glass.
tone,
I
you're
like
saying.
Glass now. Yeah, in terms of like the tone, like Glass isn't playful, and Knock at the Cabin is a great genre film, but it's not like goofy. I wouldn't say, but like Trap is intentionally goofy. Josh Hartnett's performance is so silly, but it's one of my favorites of the year. I think he's hamming it up, or like doing the M. Night thing to such a degree that few actors would really have the courage to kind of go for it and just be like, wow, the killer's here. Just like really just over the top kind of like line deliveries and dialogue that in most of the cases people would consider awful. And I think that is the disconnect that I think we have with most like general audience goers, where they think that because the acting style isn't traditional, it's bad. When I'm like, no, it's very heightened and intentional.
And it is all subjective, right? It's all about what works for you, and I understand that. But yes, I do think that a lot of the time, I think we in the modern era, I don't even think it's like people's fault. I think it's just like the type of films that get made now is like we're very used to like naturalistic acting, and this is part of why I love part of why I love like the original Nosferatu so much, and like a lot of these like German expressionist films, they have like a very like heightened style of acting. It's part of why Nicolas Cage and Willem Dafoe are some of my favorite actors now, is they just don't do that most of the time. But sometimes
I absolutely agree. It's like if you're going to be an actor or like a director and you want to get like interesting performances out of your actors, then go for it. Like, that doesn't mean every film has to have a crazy Nicolas Cage-esque performance or anything, but like use the form of acting and just like go wild with it, whether it's like a really restrained performance that just feels unlike anything, or just like a really gonzo out there. I mean, you were talking earlier about something like Chris Hemsworth in Furiosa. Like, I've never really thought Chris Hemsworth was like particularly like in like a lot of his big blockbusters, he's very just kind of like the typical blockbuster man, but he's really going for it in there, and it has a lasting impression on you, and it stands. I think something like Longlegs with Nicolas Cage, it's like that is a performance that I think people are going to remember. And for people who enjoy it, and even people who don't enjoy it but like the performance, I think Josh Hartnett's performance as Cooper in Trap is just one of the most entertaining and just delightful performances we've had out of any like mainstream film in quite some time. It's just there's no other performance quite like it, and it's delightful. But yeah, even outside of his performance, I think the whole dynamic. I think there's a lot of kind of like there's like a meta nature to the film, because the film's obviously about the Cooper, who obviously he's like a serial killer, and that takes up a lot of his time, but he doesn't really get to spend time with his family. And it's almost like a film about just like father, like a father and their like a child's love, like a bond, like a familial bond necessarily. And you get that with M. Night, because obviously it's also a vehicle for his daughter.
Exactly.
Plays Lady Raven.
He kind of wrote it for her. Like it was like a collaborative. Like he wanted to come up with a way where like he could feature her music in the movie, and like write the movie around that.
That's so kind of just delightful and charming. It makes me, it's so, I don't know, cute, and just I don't know, I love to see
It
that.
is
It's
really
like a
cute.
lot of people will say something like, oh, nepo baby and stuff like that. I mean, you can look at it
I can
that
get
way,
it,
but
but
at the
it's
same time, it's so charming to see somebody so proud of his daughter that he wants to basically create a film for her. And the relationship between Cooper and his daughter in the film kind of mirrors that a little bit. Like, it almost feels like Cooper's distant a lot because he's killing people, and like M. Night's distant a lot because he's making films a lot. And both of them, for
he has a
very
great
different
cameo
reasons,
too. M
obviously.
Night. It's a nice cameo.
Very delightful cameo from the film, but there's a lot you can kind of read into it as like he almost feels bad for letting his side hustle, I guess you could say, kind of take up his time, and he wants to pay his daughter back. In Cooper, in Trap, it's like he wants to take her to a concert and have a good time because he's been away for some time. And with this, it's like, oh hey, why don't I just give you the spotlight because I've spent so many years making films and maybe I haven't been there every second of the day. It's just, there's a lot you can take into it and like read into it, and it's just, I find it really delightful. I think it's one, regardless of how silly the film is and how just like it is a very fun time, it's also a very sweet film when you look at it from that kind of lens, I think, which is very strange to say about a serial killer film. But no, I think it's one of the sweetest films of the year, just purely based on the fact that, hey, M. Night did it for his daughter. She's going to look back on it,
Yeah.
and it kind of like, I think I said this when we watched The Monsters earlier this year, but it's like, it feels like something Rob Zombie just made for his kids. It's like, it doesn't really matter what people
That's a good
think
comparison.
about it. It's just someone made it because they just wanted to share their love of art with a family member. And I mean, we love it, but other people hate it. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it really matters what any of us think about Trap, because M. Night got to make the film he made and got to share that experience with his daughter. And I think that
it made money
was
too, right?
really beautiful about that. Say that again, sorry.
It made money too, right? Like
it
this
did
was
make
like
money.
a hit
It wasn't
for
a
him.
huge success, I don't think, but it made some money. And I think like home media and stuff and streaming, it's gonna do like very well because M. Night stuff always
it's been doing well
like,
on Max for sure.
Yeah, but no, that's my number 3. I love
Great.
it the more I think about it, and it's just probably outside of maybe my number 1, it's probably the most rewatchable film of the year for me. It's not the one I've seen the most, but it's the one that I'd have no issue if someone were like, hey, you want to watch that? I'd be like, yes, I'll drop whatever I'm doing to watch Trap. It's just such a good time. But yeah, that's my number 3. What's your number 2? Or should we get into comments first?
It's my number 3. Let me do comments first, though. Yeah.
Yes. Your number 3. I'm so sorry.
Yes, no worries. What was the last one we did? Here we go. So Josh says, yes, The Substance is crazy. Rewatched it a couple days ago. It's so funny on a rewatch. The edit makes me laugh. I also, I love the editing. I love how it does. It's almost like really fast, like Requiem for a Dream style editing at times, but it's like satirical. Like it actually really helped when I watched for the first time Coralie Fargier's film Revenge, and that has a lot of the same thing. Like the first like 10-15 minutes of Revenge kind of feels like a Michael Bay film in a way. It's like so many shots of like the character's ass and just like totally like making fun of like the male gaze basically.
Yeah,
that's fun.
I think she's got a very fun edge to her. I'm excited to see whatever she makes next.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Jason says, I get the feeling I'd walk out of the theater if I saw The Substance. Whatever.
Probably.
I don't. Yeah, another one. I don't know if this is Jason Core, but like, just be careful if you decide to give it a shot. My mom asked if she should see it, and I said no. So
I kind of want to show it to my family.
Yeah, I showed it to Renee. She liked it. She liked it more than I did, actually.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Josh says, I'd love to see it get an editing nomination.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Anora, yes, sure. I'm afraid Anora made my 10 worst movies of the year list. I hated the main character and I hate the ending. I can't agree, but I will say you're not the only person that said that about the ending. I was talking to my family recently about it, and they actually, I think they liked the film, but they the ending like just didn't work for them. I think they said it was like abrupt or something. That's actually the initial gut reaction I had to it as well. But then the more I sat with it, the more it kind of worked. The ending makes the film for me too, Josh, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Oh, Josh also compared us to Uncut Gems. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways you can read the ending. I think, but
Yeah.
I think it's very sad, very
Oh.
very sad.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
uh, yeah, it's a good situational comedy for sure. Trap does bang.
Yes.
Is that the first movie that's been on both of our lists
I.
so far? Or
Uh.
well,
Well.
we have another few, but so far I think that was
I think so far there are gonna be just out of my 10 to 5. I know 2 of these are gonna make your list, and in the
okay.
top 4, we share 2 films that are gonna be on the list. So I think
Okay.
5. We share half of the list we both have on our top 10, which is
Okay.
really cool. Just in
Cool. Cool.
different spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, Trap's amazing.
I love how M Night comes in as someone who's there to say how great his niece daughter is. Sounds like an insult, but it's not. Oh, like the cameo in the film? Is that what he's
I think
or
so.
just like
Yeah.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah. Hey Mac, how's it going? Good to see you, man.
Hi.
He says, "Hey lads, just finished watching Better Man. It's basically Rocket Man with a monkey. Not great, not terrible. Just yeah.
No.
Well, Leon. Spoiler alert for earlier in the video, but Leon did think it was great. He actually
I
it was like a
did.
last minute watch, and he put it as number 5.
Oh, I loved
And
it.
I haven't
But
seen it, but I really want to now. I've really been sold.
I'm glad you didn't hate it.
Good.
Yeah.
My dad liked The Substance until the third act.
Oh.
I mean, even like before the third act, you've already seen a lot. I can't imagine the third act completely killing that movie for somebody, but
No.
you're making me want to watch Trap again. I'm sealing the deal, working on my Blu-ray after whacking on my Blu-ray.
I think it says whacking on. I don't know
Oh,
that
okay.
phrase, but I get what you mean. Like pop.
Okay. Just turn on your Blu-ray after this. Cool. I need to get the Blu-ray at some point.
It only has a Blu-ray in the UK, so I had to go to I had to import the Australian steelbook that comes with the 4K because I was like, I need to see it 4K because I forget the director's name, but he's the guy who works with like a picture pong a lot, and he shot Challengers as well. So
and he shot Queer also.
Oh,
and
fuck,
Cinematography
right,
in
that
Queer is
has me
amazing.
excited.
Yeah.
Oh.
But the was like, oh yeah, is Australia, is that region B as well, or
Did I say Australia? Italy, sorry, Italy. I don't know
oh
why I said
okay yeah
Australia. This is Italy,
okay
but yeah, no, they're region B, and all 4K discs are always region free anyway, apart from a
yeah
very
4K
few
for sure,
exceptions.
but yeah
And because it's like a big studio disc, a lot of the studios don't lock their discs. So say it's like a Warner film or something, or like a Disney film. Like if you buy that disc, it will work anywhere, even the Blu-ray. They never tend to region lock the big mainstream titles, which is very nice. It's
that's
usually
nice.
like the Criterions and the Arrows that you've got to worry about for stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He also says, I've still not seen Trap. His films are not always great, but god damn it, they're not corporate shite for better or worse. They're one man's vision, and he lets no one interfere.
I agree,
yeah,
100%.
except for like Last Airbender, you can tell there's a lot of like studio notes in that. I also don't know how passionate he was about that.
Yeah. For me, After Earth is the only one that doesn't feel like anything resembling an M. Night feature. I think that's his worst because it just feels like a Will Smith vanity project, and it doesn't feel like Night had any creative like input whatsoever. Like even with Airbender, which is not a good film, I think me and you are both on like we give it like a 2-star. I think like we're not like
I don't think it's the worst thing ever, but it's bad. Yeah,
it's bad. But I think there's like blemishes. Like there's some interesting action in the film, and I think the way M. Night shoots quite a bit of the action's like it's decent. It's not great, but it is fine.
I agree.
But yeah, no. Outside of that, though, I think I fully agree with the comment. It's like there's no one making films like M. Night, for better or for worse. It's like he's somebody like I just love that we've got a genre filmmaker who's making these films that get mainstream wide releases. They're always genre films of some kind. He's shooting them on film as well. Like I love how happy he was to like share the like facts before Trap came out, saying, "Oh, it's shot on 35mm, and I had to change the aspect ratio and all this stuff." It's like he's such a lover of film, and it just really comes through in all of his work. I love
even films of his I don't like The Happening or Lady in the Water. Like they are very singular. Like his vision, like it's like there's a lot of I can see a lot of the stuff that I do like about him in those films still.
Yes, completely. Yeah.
for sure. All right, next one's my number 3, right?
Yes. What's your number 3?
It's one that you've talked about, and we can talk about it a little bit more because it's Hundreds of Beavers.
Yeah.
um, this was my number 1 for so long in the year. It took me so long to decide that, like, okay, maybe there's like a couple of others I might shout out a little bit more. But I think the reason it was my number 1 for so long was, like you said, I think that there's been few movies that have captured like the love of filmmaking so much, like, kind of in the same way we were talking about Trap, but like, especially like for these guys doing it, on such a low budget and having all of these very different sort of styles that they're all trying to incorporate into one. Kind of like Guy Maddin likes to blend like silent comedy and horror kind of stuff. This was very similar. It was like, like there's a lot of like, it's at times you're like watching a Charlie Chaplin film, you're watching like a wilderness horror film, you're watching like I don't know, like there's just so much like crazy stuff going on throughout. Video game, like you mentioned, it really does feel like a Minecraft type video game or something. And it is really like I'll say one other thing I'll say about it is just it's the perfect movie to throw on with a group of friends or just other people in general. So I'm sure your theatrical experience was great. Mine was great as well. Seeing it, but also like I watched it for my bachelor party. we had a few friends together, and we just had such a great time. Like all like just like watching this absolute like especially like because I don't think the other people they're not quite as much of like cinephiles as I am, and I don't think they were quite ready for something like that. But they all just loved it so much. So. Yeah, very happy. I'm happy it's kind of, I don't know if it's made money per se, but I mean, it's definitely got these guys into like.
I think so, for sure. Because
it's definitely got them some recognition.
Yeah, think about the sold out screenings. I mean, this film is kind of doing like the roadshow thing, isn't it? Where it's like.
That was what I was wondering, but it's like such a low budget and like the roadshow like costs money to put on. So I don't know if there's public figures available for how much money it's made, but I mean, like it's very exciting for people.
No, I
like Chris Stuckman had this as his number 1 film. Like this has gotten like kind of mainstream now,
No, I love to see that. And the Vinegar Syndrome's partner label did a Blu-ray release of it, and they announced it, and I think they announced that it's the fastest selling Blu-ray release of the year for them. Because the way Vinegar Syndrome works is they'll do their standard like slipless releases, but the slip covers are limited to a certain amount of units. And I think for Hundreds of Beavers, it might have been 6,000 units. I might be wrong on this. It sold out within 4 minutes.
That sounds about right.
So, like compared to other films that they've released, I think they released like Red Rooms and stuff like that. Those slipcovers haven't even sold out yet. So I think in terms of like the physical media side, the like digital downloads and stuff like that, I think Hundreds of Beavers is going to make quite a bit of money for the company, for the people behind it, which makes me so happy because they deserve it. They deserve every penny, and I hope they can just put it into like something even more crazy a couple of years down the line if they're going to continue this trend of doing like absurdist, just like out there comedies. It's it's amazing.
No, it's really warmed my heart every time I've seen it. And also I said this in my first review. It has, I think, the best title card drop in any movie I think I've ever seen.
Such a good title card drop. Like, it's so good.
Like, because you completely forget about like it. Like at the opening credits, it's like it's I think it's like kind of hints that it's going to drop the title, and then it doesn't, and then you completely forget about it, and then it drops it at like the perfect time in the movie.
It's so good.
Like an hour later.
I love Hundreds of Beavers. Amazing film.
Yeah. Cool. That was my number 3. What's your number 2?
Oh, my number 2 is Anora. I'm excited. I can talk about it a bit more now. Yeah, no. So this and my number 1, I mean, my top 4 are basically interchangeable. But this was the 2 and 1 were the ones I really struggled on, like figuring out. I was like, is this going to be my number 1? Is this going to be my number 2? And I settled at Anora at 2 purely because my number 1 is something I've revisited so many times, and no other film has really given me the same feeling as it. I'll get into that shortly. But yeah, Anora is just absolutely amazing. Again, I was saying it before, might be Sean Baker's best film, but Red Rocket's also amazing too. And I think it's such a great character study. It's a film of like three thirds. Like the first 40 minutes or so are just kind of this like never ending party. It almost feels like it's just people drinking, smoking, fucking, listening to music. It's just having the most like out there, just like time of their life type thing. The middle chunk of the film is just one of the funniest, just like it all goes wrong comedies out there. Again, Funny Games, The Hangover, Uncut Gems, taking all of these influences.
The way if like somebody missed the context for earlier, they would think you just called Funny Games a comedy.
Well, yeah, Funny Games if it was funny.
Yes.
No, it takes all of these influences and just I don't know, it has a ball with it, and then the final section of the film is just the most heartbreaking thing I've seen all year. It is just absolutely devastating, and it's one of those things that I do get why the ending doesn't work for everyone. Like Jason said, like some people might find the ending a bit just like, again, it's just very abrupt. It just kind of cuts, but I think I had a very similar experience to you where I was watching it and I was like, oh, that's the ending. And then a few minutes after walking out of the cinema, I just started like really, like I got very upset and just started crying because I was like, that's such a fucking sad and horrible, bleak kind of way to end this film. But also there's like an element of like hope there, which I also find really just kind of I don't know. It's such a tough ending to really
I talked to my family about it. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spoil it either, but I think what they said is that they kind of wished, you know, like they wanted to see in the third act, like her completely, you know, like actually find a way to totally get back at these people for what they did to her. And yes, I mean, that's what you're rooting for, but also, I mean, I think that it's kind of like if you watched Parasite and like, you know, the family all just agrees to live in the house together at the end. It's just like it kind of like would undermine like what the film is really doing, which is, you know, like getting into the real life of sex workers and kind of the hypocrisies of class, how that translates into sex work. I think it's a perfect way to end the film.
It's just amazing. I think Mikey Madison deserves all of the acclaim for her work. Sean Baker's just killing it as always. Again, I love a title card drop for that. It's like literally the opening minute or something, but I love how the credits are kind of synchronized to the music in the same way as Red Rocket as well. And such a pretty looking film, shot on film, and you can fucking tell, so beautiful. Amazing film. I think a lot of what I would have said about the film is what you've already said about it. It's just a great time until it isn't like that. Like the last section is a lot, but I implore everyone to seek it out. I think it's gonna surprise a lot of people at the like award shows and ceremonies and stuff, and hopefully that'll give it even more of a push, because I know it's done well, but I want more people seeing this film. It's so much fun, and it's one of the most entertaining films of the year. But great film. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is a film. I think you liked this, but this was not like a top 10 a year worthy film. This is Bertrand Bonello's The Beast.
The Beast. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of Bertrand Bonello. I've seen a few of his films now, and I think he has really one of the most singular voices in film today. I think maybe the filmmaker I'd compare him to the most is Christopher Nolan, just in the sense that like they're both very fascinated by time, and they like to use that in their film in kind of mysterious ways. I think Bonello is a lot more successful with Nolan at doing that in a way that's like subtle. I don't actually mind that Nolan isn't subtle about it. I'm starting to really kind of enjoy how blatant he is in a lot of ways. But yeah, so this is an adaptation of a Henry James novella called The Beast in the Jungle, which is essentially about a guy who he has this feeling that this terrible event, this terrible like catastrophe is coming to him. And because of that, he doesn't pursue happiness, or like particularly he doesn't pursue romance. He's kind of like, he's like a voluntary celibate, I'll say, for his whole life. and kind of the point of the book is that this sort of self-isolation is the beast. That's like what he was kind of fearing the whole time. It's like, like you fearing kind of your own psyche in a way. And the way, but it's not, that's a short story. Essentially what Bonello does for this is he kind of translates that story by way of the Wachowski sisters' Cloud Atlas, where it's like 3 different time periods. The first one is like takes place in like the 1800s Paris, where it's like a very like 2 sort of like upper class people like Léa Seydoux and George McKay sort of meet up, and she's the one that's sort of talking about this beast in the jungle. And then the second story takes place in modern day, or like 2014 LA. But instead of this like romantic connection that she and George McKay have, he's like a Elliot Rodgers like incel murderer, like who's like stalking her, and it becomes like a Brian De Palma type thriller in a way, or actually like David Lynch as well. Like I was thinking a lot about Lost Highway during it.
Yes.
And then the final film, or the final section, which is kind of like weaved throughout the film in different parts, but is this like 2044 like AI dystopia where human emotions are like basically like AI have taken over. There's like 70% unemployment for everybody, and they're realizing that like human emotions are like a threat. So they have these programs for people to go through and like relive their past lives in order to purge their emotions out essentially and become purified, is the way that they put it. And so I know that sounds like a lot to take in for anybody that hasn't seen the film, and it is a lot. I know, Leon, like that was kind of your takeaway, right? It was like that's just
It was just so much that I was just kind of a bit overwhelmed by it, and I didn't really know how to approach it. I'm fully okay with admitting that it might have been a bit too complex to be on a first watch, but I think it's something that hasn't really left my mind since I first watched it. And even though I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite films of the year necessarily, it's by far one of the most original. It's something that, again, I mean, we've said that about so many films today, I know, but there's nothing quite like The Beast, and it's something I'm very eager to revisit in the future, and hopefully it will just click with me and I'll be like, I see the vision now, because there are so many elements of it that are just unforgettable. In particular, that whole 2014 like Elliot Rodgers segment is just utterly very funny in places.
It is, yeah.
And also,
Dasha Nekrosova's in it randomly.
I was just gonna say, I can't believe you gave your number 2 spot to a film with fucking Dasha Nekrasova in, but you did. Not many people are gonna do that, but you did it, Jackson.
It's such a jump scare as well. Like you're like, oh, come town woman. Okay.
It's one of the most unique films I've seen all year for sure, and I need to revisit it. I really do.
And it's I've been thinking about that. I've been listening to the soundtrack a lot from the film. A lot of the original music, including that like club sequence, was actually composed by Bertrand Bonello. So he's kind of doing it all a little bit.
Real Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, and then some of the other songs are very Tommy Wiseau compared to the
I'm sorry.
No, for sure. And I have to just mention the ending is like incredible. It's like if you're a David Lynch head, like it's exactly it. I'm sure I kind of know the ending to The Return and everything, and it's very similar. The sentiment, like kind of what it's doing, is very similar to that, where it's just kind of this like profound like expression of defeat and horror, I suppose. It's quite an affecting ending, which is a big part of why it's on this high on my list for sure.
No, absolutely.
I just love Bonello. I think like his other film, like House of Tolerance, is like one of my favorite films of the 2010s. Nocturama is a fantastic like terrorist drama, basically. He's really cool. I can't wait to see what he does next.
I need to check out some of his older stuff, because he's one of the most unique feeling voices in cinema right now. So I'm very excited to dive into more of his work soon. Yeah. But hell yeah, great number 2.
Cool.
Okay.
Number 1 film, huh?
Number 1 film. Okay. So this was my number 1 for a bit. Then it went down to number 2, and then I was like, oh fuck, it's number 2. But it's the one I've rewatched the most this year. It's the one that it makes me feel the most. It's the one that pumps me up beyond belief. It's the one that I caught twice at the cinema and had a blast both times, and I've revisited it so many times. It has the best soundtrack of the year. It has maybe like Anora's probably the best ending of the year, but it has my favorite ending of the year. It's so fun. It's so saucy. It's horny. It's all over the place. Of course, I'm talking about Challengers. Holy shit! What a film! I love Challengers. I get very excited, as you can see. Yeah, I've not been.
How many times have you watched it this year?
6, I think.
That's awesome.
I keep going back to it. It's 5 or 6, I know that. But oh my god, it's just it kind of every other Luca Guadagnino film I've seen. I like Call Me by Your Name. I fucking hate his Suspiria remake. Like, I think it's dog shit.
Yeah.
I think
I like it a little bit more, but it's the more I think about it, the less I like it. Like, it definitely feels like, I don't know, an art house man approaching a remake of a classic giallo like sleazy movie.
Yeah, I was so underwhelmed by it. But yeah, no, I really didn't like that one. Bones and All is really good. Like, I think it really, really
quite
good.
A bit.
And then Challengers, I was just like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Before this, I was familiar with Zendaya, had no experience with Mike Feist, I had no experience with Josh O'Connor, so I was just going into it. I was like, fuck it, let's give this a shot, see what it's like. And then immediately you hear this Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross score, which is like the coolest shit like in any movie all year. It's like the most bombastic, energetic, just like exhilarating.
I work out to it. It's on my running playlist, like the whole soundtrack, really.
Oh, it's amazing. Maybe my most listened to soundtrack of the entire year. Probably, absolutely is. But then you've got such this great dynamic between the three characters. It's a bit of a love triangle movie. Well, it's absolutely a love triangle movie, but the film is like jumping back and forth between time, kind of similar to a tennis match, because it all revolves around tennis players. And again, on when you hear that, you're like, a movie about tennis, really? But it really is.
No, it's a very riveting sports movie. Like you do. Again, I don't want to like say too much, like of the issues I had with it because it's your number one. But like I had issues with it, but it's such a like. As a sports drama, I think the actual like tennis sequences works. If you just like movies where you really get invested in like, like simply like athletes going head to head, it's really, really good.
Oh yeah, no, it's like I love how Luca every single match, because there'll be sequences where the characters are training for a match. There's countless matches because it's taking over the course of, I think it's like a 19 year period, or maybe not that long. Maybe it's about 16 years or something. But like there's so many tennis matches in the film. Each one is filmed in a different way. It's like Luca's having like fun. He's like, what if I shoot a tennis match from the perspective of a ball? What if I do it and it's overhead? What if I do this really great one where the camera's bouncing left and right, and it's just like every single tennis sequence is filmed in such a different way, and it feels so just like fun. It feels so like energetic, especially considering a lot of his other films like again, like he loves his art house stuff, and I mean I'm imagining Queer isn't something where every second you've just got these crazy like this shit going on like that, and Call Me by Your Name.
I didn't mention it, but it's such a, for people, I like to imagine people who just like are not familiar with Luca and they've only seen Challengers going to watch Queer. Like it's such a difference, such a big whiplash in terms of like the style.
Yeah, it's just like him going like full throttle, just like having the time of his life, going as like batshit as possible. But like, I really love just like the central like three characters in the film, for like they're so flawed in all of their own ways. And I know you kind of have issues with how Luca kind of writes characters sometimes, but I find these characters super compelling. Just in terms of like the way the film's structured, kind of going back and forth. Like immediately it starts at this like the event, like the match between the two guys, and then it cuts back in time like 15-16 years ago, and then it flash forwards to like the day before, and it's like constantly going back and forth, and it's feeding you these pieces of information that make you completely like recontextualize everything you're seeing, because at first you're just like, oh okay, why do I care about this match between two people? And then you'll have a bit of a backstory, and it's like, oh okay, so it's this guy, and that's his whole shtick. And then you see this guy, and you're like, oh, I kind of feel bad for this guy, he's not doing too well. Then you'll learn something about him, and you'll be like, oh, that guy's a piece of shit, and then you'll be like, oh, but wait, he's only acted like that because of that, and it's just like this kind of just whiplash of you can't really get a handle on who these characters are, and the way that the film just kind of constantly has you going back and forth, kind of paralleling the match that's going on, the central match in the film, is just something I find so exhilarating, even after knowing like where everything's going to go, knowing the narrative beats. On a rewatch, I think the film's even richer for that, because you know kind of the character traits of these people, you know what they're doing, and I think it enriches the film even more, to the point that I think they're like the best characters of any Luca film I've seen. Again, I haven't seen Queer and some of his earlier stuff, so that could change when I watch those, but I just think these characters are so layered and they have such a rich personality. It's nice to see like a horny movie that isn't sleazy. Like, it's just Luca loves filming the male body, and like he's great at it. Like, I don't know how else to describe it as a straight person. I'm just like, damn, he really
especially
knows
I mean the female body too, at least in this film.
And,
I don't know if he's really shown that much of an interest of it outside of, I mean, like Queer, definitely not. Call Him by Your Name a little bit, but
a little. And, but
so certainly Suspiria, but more in a different way. I do like how he uses dance in Suspiria as like body horror.
Yeah, like there's that one sequence in Suspiria that's really good. I will give it that.
But no, it's a great pick, man. I mean, like I think hearing you talk about it, I mean, I really should have rewatched it before the end of the year, especially because, like, with how much I like Queer, you know, it's the exact same crew. Like, it's the same writer, it's the same cinematographer. Yeah. It's like everything is there that worked for me about Queer, and so I definitely should revisit it and see if it works better. Because listening to you, like, even talk about the characters, like, kind of makes me think that maybe I got it slightly wrong. So need to go back.
I hope that on a rewatch it works for you more, but I totally get if like it doesn't or anything. I just think there's so much about it to admire. Again, it looks gorgeous. Like, it's nice to see something shot on film. Like, a lot of what we've spoke about this year actually is shot on film, which is a nice change of pace.
Quite a few of mine. Digital, Hundreds of Beavers is like DSLR digital.
Yeah,
I don't know if The Beast is. I imagine The Beast is digital, but
Kinds of Kindness, Trap, Challenges, like all of these are just shot on film.
Hitman, I think, was great. I don't know. I'd have to check on that.
Actually. Hitman might be shot on film. It wouldn't surprise me if it was. But yeah, no, I just Challenges is amazing. It has the most exhilarating final 10 minutes of any film I've seen all year, or just like any section of any film. It's just so exhilarating. So, just thinking about it now has my heartbeat racing. I'm like, holy shit, I want to go watch that again. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I've had that throughout the video. I'm like, I need to just rewatch all of these.
But yeah, that's my number one pick. Challenges, cool. Best of the year. Loved it.
Awesome.
Now, what is your number one of the year?
So like a lot of the movies I've already brought up, like, have at different times of the year have kind of been my number one, like especially the last three I brought up. But the more I thought about it, and the more I thought about like my initial experience of watching it, when I thought about the rewatch, I think my film of the year is I Saw the TV Glow.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
think a big reason why too is, like, you know, you've already said a lot about it, but I think it's, you know, when I think about like best films of the year from decades past, you know, look in the 70s or something, and I think of like films of the time that were really kind of defining of that era of filmmaking, and like, you know, what a lot of artists were interested in, what audiences were interested in. I think that resonates with me as, like, you know, like a factor for picking like best film of the year. And I think that no film really gets to, like, you know, a lot of like, especially like the young, like my generation, and kind of maybe even like people slightly younger than me, you know, the experience of kind of growing up in a time of where there's so much sort of all this like digital entertainment. I mean, I think a huge like influence on the film is Videodrome. They even have like the same poster at some point where like the guy is like sticking his head into the TV pretty much.
Yes.
It's very much about like being kind of losing yourself and kind of seeing your own identity to media, like to a piece of media. Yeah. But it's also very, I mean, and you can read it in that way. I mean, like I'm a straight white guy, but but the film, you know, resonated for me in that way. But it's also so specific to the trans experience. Like, it's so like I can't imagine like what kind of an emotional trip this is for somebody who is trans. I'd almost like, sort of caution that as like a warning before you go into it, especially because the ending is kind of bleak in a way. I do think it's like, it's bleak in the film, but it's not like, it's an ending that makes somebody who has made that transition realize, like, thank God I did it.
Yes.
Like it's like, that's so many people I know who have done that, have said that about it. But beyond all that stuff, I think it's just such a great pastiche as well. We were talking a little bit about Sean Brun's first film, which I think you like more than I do. I still liked it quite a bit. Yeah, I still liked it quite a bit, but I thought that this was just such a big step up in like how they were able to conceive of all of these amazing genre images, like the creation of the TV show itself, all of the like Eraserhead type, like, like the man in the moon and all that stuff. Like it, and the way that they tie it together with music as well. The soundtrack is so good. Like you're mentioning with Challenger, this has been like the soundtrack I've listened to the most this year, like from any film. So yeah.
No, I completely get that. There's so much great stuff on it.
Yeah, I know. Like you did with Challengers, I could just keep gushing about it. But
it's beautiful. It's
so beautiful.
Sorry to cut you off just then, but I think I said it with Hundreds of Beavers and with I Saw a TV Glow, but I think like those are the two of the out of I don't know if you'd agree, but out of any of the films we've spoken about on our combined top 10 list, I think Hundreds of Beavers and I Saw the TV Glow are kind of like the instant classics of the year, like the ones that will stand the test of time, and they'll be talked about 2 years, 10 years, 20, 30, 40 years from now as just like landmark films for what they were basically trying to achieve. And even though both of those weren't like my number one of the year or anything, I do think they're by far the defining films of 2024. And I Saw the TV Glow is just absolutely fantastic, and I completely understand why it's your number one, and part of me wants to have it at number one because I'm just like, it's so perfect in so many ways, but I've also just I have that like bias of I like the goofy shit that like close to my number one and stuff. And it's terrible. I should put
it's not terrible. Ones, but, I thought about putting I mean, like you said, I had Hundreds of Beavers at the top of my list for a lot of the year. Snack Shack was really close for
it's so good, Snack Shack.
I do. You mentioned it when you were talking about it. I also have to give a quick performance shout out to Justice Smith, who is somebody that I have not really connected with ever, like at all. Like I think the first thing I saw him in was what's that John Green movie? Paper Towns, I think. Yeah. He's fine in that. I mean, that's it's a whatever, like throwaway kind of John Green coming of age. And then like in the Jurassic, like I think he's really terrible in the Jurassic World movies and stuff like that. But I had no idea he was capable of this. Like he disappears into the role. He's so like the mannerisms, like all the quiet stuff. I think sometimes I talked about in my Nosferatu review how certain like mannerisms can get a little bit repetitive. I kind of felt that way about Lily Rose Depp's performance in that. Yeah. And he has that in this, but he just, I don't know, it just completely worked. He just like disappeared into, I completely believed that he was this like very isolated character. Sort of just like, I love like the line of the year for me really like in any script is like, do you like boys or girls? And he's like, I think I like TV shows. Yeah. Like the way he delivers that is just so perfect, great.
Yeah, it's beautiful. He's excellent in the film, and I really like his co-lead as well, like his friend in the film as well.
Yeah,
I think she's fantastic.
Really great.
Yeah, but what a picture! Part of me wishes it was my number one because it's so good. But I'm so glad we both have it.
We had very different lit. We had a lot to kind of to give people for their watch lists and stuff. We had a very very diverse.
But yeah, no, it was super fun. We should get some comments, and then I'm gonna have to dip, but not because I don't want to dip, but my phone's on like 8%, so I'm just worried it's gonna die before the stream ends. But we should get some comments real quick because
I've got to dip as well. I'm probably gonna go like play some pool or something. Like I'm just gonna get up after being up for chatting for 3 hours. But
oh my god, it's been 3 hours! Holy shit! I thought we were up for like an hour and a half or something.
Yeah.
Oh, it flies by.
Jason says it's funny how we can watch the same movie and our reviews are like it's like we watch a completely different movie. Yeah, I mean that's one of the things I love about film. Honestly, is like I love that people don't have the same taste as me, and I love that we can like it's like a Rorschach test almost sometimes.
Fuck the holdovers. Sorry.
Holdovers is great. Love it.
Oh wait, can I actually mention my real number one of the year? It's Deadpool and Wolverine. No, I'm kidding. I should have done that before.
Jason says Honora is so mean to that guy, and the scene happens at the end didn't make any sense. The movie ends without. I think I think he's really mean to her. I think he's very like inconsiderate of her. Like obviously, like he's just so like he's very young. Obviously, is the point. But he's like he had no idea what like. Character I think he's referring to the Russian kid.
From what my comment, because when it's saying Honora's mean to that guy, I think he's talking about the henchman
Yuri Borisov. Yes, yeah. That's a fair point because especially because like she definitely is. I mean she's absolutely horrible to him. But I think I love their conversation at the end of the movie when they're just hanging out on the couch and smoking cigarettes and they finally connect.
Beautiful.
Yeah. This is probably when I was talking about The Beast. I was like, it is probably the hardest movie to pitch. Like I've recommended it to so many people, and they're like, "What's it about?" And I'm like, "Sit down for a few minutes while I tell you." He says Zendaya is so sexy in Challengers. I like the editing and the storytelling, but didn't like the ending. Wanted more of the tennis match. Yeah, it's fair.
Oh, the ending's so good.
I like the ending too, but she is very like I was kind of surprised that Luca was like, I'm gonna really like go for bringing that out, especially because like we mentioned, like he hasn't done a lot with like female eroticism. It's mostly male eroticism in his movies.
But great film.
My favorite movie was Complete Unknown. I've heard really good things. My parents liked it a lot. Because I'm not the biggest biopic fan, but like a lot of people I know who also don't love biopics have said it's pretty good. So I might have to check that out. But I just didn't.
I need to see it too.
Yeah, some of it too is I'm not like a huge Bob Dylan head. I like his music a lot from what I've heard, but I just haven't. I'm not like a super fan who like knows details of his life and all that. So.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way.
Yeah. Well, cool. That's all of our comments.
That was awesome.
This has been fantastic. This is really, really fun. This went super well. I'd like to do this every year if we can kind of go back and forth like this.
I'm so down for it. We need to find the time to make like a podcast or something where we just talk about what we've been watching because we have such great discussions about this stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
It's great. But no,
cool.
Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you so much to everyone who watched.
Thank you, Jason, Josh, Simon, Mac, Winslow. Sorry if I'm missing anybody.
Brady.
Scrolling up a little bit here. Sin. Everybody. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, and we'll be back sometime soon.
We haven't picked a date, but we have to make sure everybody has put something in their calendar to look out for. We have 2 more streams planned that are related to like end of the year stuff. So the next one that we're going to do is our 10 worst films of the year, which I imagine is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yes. We'll have some overlap, I'm sure. I think
we're going to have more overlap on that one than we did on this one.
I'm excited.
And then the other one is we did this last year, but we did like top 10 best like first time watches of the year. So like films that didn't come out this year, but like older stuff that you'd watch for the first time and just really loved and wanted to shout out. So doing both of those shortly. I would imagine at least one of those will be out in the next week.
For sure.
And then I've thought about like in terms of my reviews, like I think Nosferatu would be a good one to do. Now that it's like, like I've seen it and everybody's kind of talking about it right now as well. So might be good to put out, but yeah.
No, absolutely. But
Cool.
yeah, no, I hopefully, and in terms of people who watch my stuff, I'll maybe start making videos again. I always get this, but like this time, I genuinely, this is the first time I've done anything YouTube related for a bit because of the move and everything. But it's actually not too bad in here. It's like pretty cozy. I'm in a caravan right now, but like it's a pretty cozy environment to maybe record some stuff. So maybe I'll be back at YouTube soon. But if not, you can always read my written stuff over at blueprintreview.co.uk. Shout out to the website. I have plenty I'll be reviewing next year, and some interviews and stuff which will be coming up, which I'll probably upload to the YouTube channel too,
Very
which I'm
good.
very excited about. But yeah, no, this has been a blast. Thank you again for having me on, man.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for us. But thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, have a great rest of your day. See ya.
Yep. See you later. Bye. Bye.